Steve Ritchie leaves Stern for Jersey Jack. Spooky Pinball launches Halloween and Ultraman. Museum of Pinball to auction their entire collection.
Hi, my name is Joosten. I'm the editor of Pinball Magazine, and I'm joined here with...
I'm Martin Ayub, and I'm the editor of Pinball News, and we're here with our July 2021 PINcast to look back at all the Pinball World events from the previous month. And we are now a little bit later than usual because we're recording this on the 4th of August. Normally we do it on the 1st, but there was some particular news we wanted to cover, and we had some people we wanted to speak to as well, as you'll hear a little bit later. And for that reason, we're, despite those headlines that we mentioned earlier, we're also going to have 2 interviews.
Possibly
with,
3.
Various people. But,
right.
Oh, 3, yes, you're right, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
It's so much going on this month that I'm losing track of what it is we've done. So we might as well dive straight in and stop prevaricating and start with the main headline this month, which is the news from Jersey Jack Pinball.
Right. So, and you might wonder why it's in the previous month. Actually, we knew about this last month already.
Yes.
And with last month, I mean, I was contacted by Steve Ritchie, I think July 27th, which is a day after he apparently finished the white boots for his upcoming game at Stern, and packed his stuff, left his office, packed up his office, left, and the next day he texted me that he was going to be joining Jersey Jack Pinball.
Yes, he resigned from Stern, we believe, on the Monday, the 26th.
Yes.
Officially, gave notice. I guess he didn't need to give 30 days notice of quitting.
If you're Steve Ritchie, you probably don't. And apparently there's also no non-compete
that's
in
a
place.
surprise. Yeah, you would think that would be standard, but I guess when you're in that lofty position in the company, you can negotiate certain things into your contract and certain things out of it.
Right. So now there's good news and bad news.
Yeah.
The good news is Steve Ritchie told me right away he wants to come on our podcast. The bad news is that still has to wait a little bit because Ken Cromwell, who is the media manager at Jersey Jack Pinball, also has a podcast apparently, and he wants to be the first to have Steve Ritchie on, but he's on vacation this week. So
Ken is, not Steve.
Yes, Ken is. Now, I can respect that someone is on vacation, but if you know up front that Steve Ritchie is going to be jumping ship, he could have recorded that podcast the week prior, I suppose, and not expect the world to stop turning, because obviously everybody wants to talk to Steve Ritchie right now, and basically they're telling everybody no. So,
yeah, it's a problem, and so basically you won't hear anything from Steve on social media in terms of interviews this week.
Right.
You have to wait until next week.
Next week will be the earliest, and then we'll see who we will be talking to. But we have we got the guarantee from Jack Guarnieri that Steve will be coming on our podcast, and it will be very, very interesting, I suppose.
Yeah, and Steve wants to come on our podcast as well, so it's a done deal. The only question is when. So I guess we will be doing a bonus podcast at some point over the next week or so.
Right, but in the meantime, we did talk to Jack Guarnieri. Shall we listen to that now?
Yeah, I think so, because there are certain things that we need to keep in reserve, so questions which only Steve can answer, and but there's an awful lot which Jack can talk about, and not just about Steve's new role and how that came to happen, but also about what's happening at the Jersey Jack Pinball factory and in the management, and also ongoing issues with existing games and what their plans are for the future. So yeah, we have a lot to talk to Jack about.
Okay, so let's give Jack a call.
Okay.
listening for Jack, Jersey Jack.
Oh, good old Gary. I knew he'd make an appearance somewhere. How are you, Jack?
I'm very well, thank you. How you guys doing?
Pretty good. I guess you got back from Chicago the other day. You weren't up there very long, were you?
It was a matter of hours. I had a bunch of stuff to do yesterday, so I needed to get back. And it was a great trip. It was a lot of fun. There's millions of people traveling. It's very exciting to see airports full of people again.
Oh, is it healthy?
And healthy, right?
Well,
is it?
Is it? That's what we're wondering.
Well, that's another show.
Okay.
Okay. So you're up in Chicago in Elk Grove Village for a main reason, which I think we're all familiar with now. And you welcomed Steve Ritchie to the company as he turned up in his trademark shades and was introduced to Pat and Eric and Keith and everybody else at the factory. How was that whole experience?
It was awesome. Steve came to the airport to pick me up. I was going to take an Uber, and he insisted on picking me up. My flight was delayed about an hour because of air traffic and all of that kind of stuff. And he pulled up in his black car. That would make sense that he has a black car, and he jumped out of the car and ran over, and we hugged each other, and he said, "We're making it happen." And I said, "We certainly are." And we got in the car and we drove right to Jersey Jack Pinball.
Right. So obviously this was the culmination of some negotiations and some contacts that led up to that. How did that all happen? What was the impetus? Did Steve reach out to you, to Brett or Leonard, or was the contact the other way around?
Well, I think everybody that knows me or Steve knows that we've been really close friends for over 20 years. And at shows and things like that, it's not uncommon to see us joking around or having lunch together, or having dinner together, having breakfast together. So, I've loved Steve as a person and as a great designer for many, many years. And, on Father's Day, this past Father's Day, we exchanged good wishes for Happy Father's Day.
Mm-hmm.
And then we exchanged a few more texts. And it was clear that Steve was interested in furthering his career by being with a company that would enable him to make really great games. And that's how it began.
Right. Okay. So not a direct approach, but more a sort of conversational occurrence, I suppose we could probably call it. It wasn't. I guess you'd known that Steve had not been entirely happy with his previous employer, I should say, and I don't think Steve had necessarily made that too much of a secret. So I'm surprised that you kind of hadn't sort of kept that conversation going, because I know right back 10 years ago, when you were first starting the company and getting Wizard of Oz into production, there was certain discussions then with Steve about getting him to join the company, which never came to anything for various reasons. Right. But has that been something that's been sort of on the back boiler or the back of your mind all those years, or is it something that was wasn't even a consideration up until more recently?
Martin, you know me pretty well, and when I have something in my mind that I really like to accomplish, it's really hard for me to let it go. And Steve wasn't. I'm not making Steve into like a bucket list item or anything like that, because he needs to decide what he needs to do for himself, and I respected his wishes before things have to fit. Certain things work at certain times. Perhaps in 2010, when I was thinking of starting Jersey Jack Pinball, and Steve actually was not working for any pinball company at the time, we couldn't really get it together. He had an idea of what he wanted. I had an idea of what things should be. It was a startup, and it was, we kind of agreed not to disagree or not to be together at that point. And so now it comes full circle, and now is really a great time. Steve completed his next game for the company he worked for, and it was done. I not that I'm telling tales out of school, but people know that Steve would never leave anywhere unless his job was completely done, because he has amazing pride and passion for what he does. So if you're going to hire somebody that goes between projects, whoever it is, you really need to do it during that little window between the time they finish something and between the time they start something else. And that time was now.
Right. So was there anybody at Steve's old company that knew that he was going, or did he keep it to himself?
I don't know. That's a Steve question. So I know you're going to do an interview soon with Steve.
Hopefully, yes.
So some of the things, well, not hopefully, you're going to do an interview with Steve, and I know you're going to ask him a lot of questions. Ken Cromwell's doing the first interview with Steve because Ken works for Jersey Jack Pinball, and it would seem right, quote unquote, that Jersey Jack Pinball gets the first interview with Steve. I think that's a good thing. But you guys have access all the time, and I know the questions you ask will probably be a little different than the questions Ken might ask. So it gives listeners a great opportunity to get a full circle of information.
Right. Okay. Well, we appreciate that we will have Steve on the show shortly. We'd love to have him this week, but I understood that's not possible. Be that as it may.
Well, you stuck with me. I'm sorry.
I'm more than happy. Yeah, but when we do finally get Steve on and introduce him, what's his job title?
He'll share that with you.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I don't want to take too much away from Steve.
No, don't worry. We got plenty to ask.
Steal his thunder. I know
Both
you guys are accumulating a lot of questions for Steve, and he's very well versed at how to answer questions. So he does not have to be coached on answering anything. He's his own guy.
Right, sure. We're just interested more in the structure of the company really now, because you clearly have three main designers, all producing, all designing games, and with Pat and Eric and Steve now all there.
Right. Having designers is really important. It's not the only thing that we're working on. Certainly, we're working to increase production. We're working on different issues that we have. We'll probably always have issues. We strive for excellence. We may not ever get there, but what this does, it actually puts a little bit of pressure on other parts of the company to pick up the pace, build more games a day, develop that second assembly line, possibly a third assembly line, bring more people into the company, more resources, more ability to satisfy the demand for Jersey Jack games, because there is thankfully a great demand for our product, and we want to meet that.
Right. So how much longer do you think Guns N' Roses will be the only game in production?
I think before the end of this year we'll be in production of that game, probably on the second line, and maybe some other things on the second line too. So we're working on a lot of different things at the same time. I don't think that's a big secret.
Right. So you mentioned that Steve finished the game that he was working on for his previous employer. he starts. Well, we're assuming that he will be designing games for you, but we don't know the timeline in which his previous employer will be releasing that game. So in theory, it could be that Steve's New Jersey Jack game might
I
be
know where you're
competing.
going, Jonathan. I know where you're going.
You might be competing against his own game.
Yeah, well, maybe. I can tell you, I would save my money for the one he's doing for us. That's what I would say.
Okay.
I understand why you would say
did
that.
Steve come to you? Did Steve come to you with an idea for a game straight away, or is that something you're still going to be talking about?
Steve, put that in the other column, Martin, for a Steve question.
Okay. Well, I suppose my next question then would be: do you have a target for how frequently you want to release new games? Now you've got more people designing them, and
Right.
it's classically been quite a long time between each release.
Yeah.
Do you want to bring that down? Do you have I guess you want to bring it down, but do you have an idea how? One game a year, one game every 8 months, that kind of a thing.
Ideally, certainly more than one game a year. Yes, and we've talked about it before, and sometimes the best plans that you make are interrupted. We wanted to get everybody under one roof, and we made the big move to Chicago, Elk Grove Village, to have everybody under one roof. And then guess what? COVID came along and made sure that not only could we have everybody under one roof, but we couldn't even have anybody under one roof because of what happened. So sometimes you can plan. It's great to plan. I like to plan way ahead, as a lot of people in the company like to do. But you have to have a contingency plan, plan B. You have to have a window, a door, a different way to get out of the house. So we'll just keep trying to improve everything that we can. I mean, we can't make everything a priority, right? Because then nothing's a priority. But there's a lot of thought and a lot of resources going into a lot of different parts of the company to be better.
Right. So what I'm curious about, and this is a question that you probably can answer, I'm not sure whether you want to answer it, but so as you just told us, you've been texting with Steve since Father's Day, and he indicates he wants to come over. I'm sure you discussed that internally with upper management, I suppose we can call it. So we have a chance to get Steve Ritchie. Was there anybody who was like, well, do we need a third designer at the moment? Or was there anybody like, well, now is not a good time? Or was it like, if we can get Steve Ritchie, let's get him?
Yeah, it was the latter, because being part of upper management, we talk about a million things all the time. There's always things in play, and certainly there's never a bad time to bring a great person into the company. So when the old thing you say, when opportunity knocks, you answer the door. And Steve is an unbelievable talent. He brings amazing things with him. Just as Pat did when I hired him in 2013 and brought him back to pinball. It's an amazing opportunity to a lot of different things and bring that resource to the company. So if I had an opportunity to do that, I'm certainly going to promote that.
Right. Okay, looking at the larger company sort of structure, I suppose is probably the best way to describe it. You did have Jim Patler working as chief operating officer for a while, and but after he left, I don't think anybody replaced him in that particular role. Is that correct? And if so, is that role not needed? Was that more to do with setting up the company in the new facility? Or are you still looking for a COO?
No, I think some of the things we decided is that some titles and announcing some people in certain titles. It just elevates them to a point where there are other people that put a target on their back. And they're, I don't want to telegraph what we're doing to our competitors, whether they're friendly or not friendly. And in the very beginning of the company, if a flipper coil fell off the shelf, we did a press release about it. So it was important at the time to tell people what we were doing. But we're not a public company. We're a private company. We don't really need to tell anybody anything except that we have some great games and we support them and we want to build more of them and make our customers happy and have fun and all of that. So the inner workings of the company, who's doing what, when, I know it might be interesting for pinball historians such as yourself and others to speculate on. It's just going to be a point of speculation and give you guys something to do, because if I told you everything, I'd ruin it for you.
Right. Okay. Now, not sure whether you can or want to answer the next question, but Steve's move sort of had been rumored about for a week before it actually was announced. But as a pinball company, you can understand you don't want certain rumors and so on. How do you respond or deal with such information leaking?
It's great. I think it's great. Gives people something to do while they're waiting for their games to arrive, I guess. It gives people something to talk about. I think if nobody talks about you, that's when you really have to worry. When people are talking about you and they're doing all kinds of things and coming up with all kinds of theories and scenarios and what if and how come and why didn't they do this and I could do it better and armchair quarterbacking and everything like that. I love it. It's great. Keep talking. Keep talking.
Yeah, but not all commentary is necessarily positive, and particularly the issues you had recently with playfields, and you're not alone in that either. But that seems to be your Achilles heel at the moment, and people are talking about that, and not in a good way. And I don't think that's not something which is very positive towards the company, is it?
Well, look, things happen in pinball, and we have a reputation for many years of taking care of the customer. And I'm pretty sure the few people that have problems, we've made offers to sell playfields at a special price. So if somebody feels the need that they want an extra playfield, at the end of the run at Guns N' Roses, they can buy a playfield at a special price. So we've been very accommodating to our customer base, very respectful of them, and we want to build on that. I mean, the whole company was built on taking care of the customer, and I don't think that really changed. I think possibly there are some playfields where people may have done something to the playfield to cause damage. I don't really know. I've seen some pictures where, as a technician and somebody in the business for, dare I say, like 46 years, I really wonder how the damage occurred. I don't know. And I'm not accusing anybody of anything. I'm not saying anything. I'm just making a casual observance. So we have a great customer service department with Ken and Steve, and it's headed up by Barry. So anybody that has a question or problem or something like that, the resource is there for customers to reach out to. So
I've certainly seen plenty of people, and obviously this is a small number from the large number of machines that you sell, but a certain number of people who have not had a positive customer service experience, and obviously are vocal about it on various forums. And they're worried. They're worried about their game. They don't think that putting washers under posts is actually going to solve the problems that they're getting. And in a way, I kind of sympathise with both sides, because I know once you've built a game, and you can't just change the playfield. It's not. It takes an entire production line to build up the game, and to swap it out for a replacement playfield, by one person doing that by themselves is a huge undertaking. So just having a spare playfield isn't a solution in those circumstances. But anyway, we don't want to get too stuck on the playfield issue, because that's something we've addressed before and I'll ask you about before. So I suppose one of the questions I wanted to ask, and you may not again want to address this, is now you've got Pat, Steve, and Eric all designing games. Are there any changes to? I mean, Pat is head of game design, as I understand it. Is there any changes to Pat's role or Pat's responsibilities as a result of having a larger group?
I don't see that at all.
No? Okay. Just wondered whether there was whether you had any. Because I know when Dennis joined over at American Pinball, part of his responsibilities was to nurture junior designers and to bring them on in the business. And I don't know whether you have a similar program, even though you've only got 3 designers.
It goes without saying that the more experienced should teach the quote unquote less experienced, but being somebody who was less experienced at a lot of different things, I found the learning and the teaching, it goes both ways, because some people have ideas that can teach each other, and as a group we know a lot more than as individuals, and we're a lot stronger as a team. So the fact of collaboration and sharing and communicating is extremely important, pretty much in everything, in a marriage and friendships, and certainly in a pinball company.
Right. So obviously we know about the current design team being Pat, Eric, and Steve recently added to that. Is there also, let's call it, junior designers that we don't know about yet?
Not that I know of, no.
Well, it could have been. I mean, as a junior designer, it would be a great place.
Are you auditioning to build a pinball machine, Jonathan? Is that your way of saying you'd like to design a game?
Oh, I can't. If I would be designing a game, I'd love to be mentored by Steve and Pat. That's what I'm.
That's a great point.
So any aspiring pinball designer, I would say, not sure whether there is a vacancy or an internship or whatever you want to call it, but getting mentored by Pat and Steve and Eric Meunier, I may add.
Yep.
That sounds like an awesome internship to me.
Me too. So never say never, so you never know.
Right. So, on a completely different topic, focusing more on you, Jack, I understand you've been working with a Polish reporter to sort of document a part of your history in the coin-op industry before starting Jersey Jack. Is there anything you can tell about that?
Well, Lucas in Poland, from the Pinball Club, he's been a friend for many, many years. And one day out of the blue, a few weeks ago, he said, would you answer some questions? And he sent maybe, 10 questions. And I answered them. And then he said, okay, that's good. And then he asked me follow-up questions to the 10 with about another 25 questions. And I answered those. And about another dozen or 2 questions came, and I answered those. And I wondered, why all this information, why all this question, But I answered him, and I didn't know if he was just curious on his own or what he's going to do with this information. So I guess you know better than me what he's doing.
Well, I don't know what he's doing, but I have been in contact with Lucas, and he mentioned that he was sort of doing an interview with you. As a reporter, definitely I'm interested in reading about your history, and I might as well be interested in publishing it. So,
well,
we'll just have to see
if it's anything that interests you, I was, some of the questions were really funny to me, but some of them, I think I answered most all of them that he asked me.
Okay, so we finally get to find out what the color of your toothbrush is.
That was a question on the list, and no, it wasn't a question on the list, but it was almost a question on the list, I guess. He asked things like that. Did you help him with those questions, or what?
No, I didn't. No, he's creative on his own.
Well, he's very interesting. Very interesting.
Okay. So looking ahead now, do you have any plans for any overseas trips, Jack? Now you're saying that air travel is back and busy as ever. Will we be seeing you in foreign countries?
Yes, I would expect to go to the show in London in January. Phil Palmer probably have a stand there, and we'll probably get to see each other at that show, I would hope.
Awesome. I already have my hotel room booked for that.
There you go. So that would be good. We kick off next year with that show and try to get back to whatever normal is. Hopefully we don't have the Epsilon virus or whatever it's going to be after the Delta, but whatever's going on, just everybody needs to stay safe and follow whatever health guidelines are in the area that they're in at the moment.
Well, it's a bit strange at the moment because you are allowed to come over here, but I'm not allowed to come over there. No.
Right. Yeah, it is kind of strange, and I have my Aruba trip in a little while, in a couple weeks, and when you go to a foreign country, you need to test before you go. You can't get on the plane, and then when you are ready to come home, you need to test before you come home, because if you have it, the United States doesn't want you back in the country, even if you're a citizen.
It could be a long holiday.
Well, I don't want to be stuck there, but there are worse places you could be stuck probably. So
Right. So one other thing, if I'm not mistaken, you were at PinFest last weekend, weren't you?
Yes, it was great. I was only there on Friday because I had a previous engagement for Saturday, but it was kind of like old times. It was really great to see everybody after almost 2 years.
What was the kind of atmosphere there like? Was it were people sort of still a bit guarded about social contact or close social contact, or was it really like the old times?
So it was like the old times, Martin. It was I thought, well, maybe I should wear a mask or not shake hands and not if somebody's going to hug you or whatever, but before I could even think about putting a mask on, there were people hugging me and shaking hands and all of that. And I said, okay, well, I guess I think I counted about 10 people with masks the whole day. My guess is that pretty much everybody was vaccinated. You don't know, but
no.
I didn't hear of people getting sick after the show. It was last Friday, I guess. So
might be too soon.
But I was there. Yeah, I mean, who knows? But everybody was in a great mood. Everybody was happy to see everybody. I saw a lot of things being sold, whether they were mods or games. There was a good selection of games to be played. It was a lot of fun. The food across the street is great at the farmers market. That was going full blast. So it wasn't a concert event like Lollapalooza that they just had this past weekend with 100,000 people all crammed together. You measure your risk, and if you feel like social distance in a way, or put your mask on, or whatever it was. I mean, typical for shows, we use a lot of hand sanitizers. So I've done that way before COVID, because you're shaking people's hands and you're touching things, and you don't want to, you want to be clean. So that was, you had to actually, some booths had hand sanitizer and some had it if you asked them. So there's some difference of how people feel about different things.
Right.
Well, on that kind of topic and shows in general, one in particular, looking forward to Pinball Expo in October, the end of October. This will be the first year of Pinball Expo where the Jersey Jack factory will be pretty close by and presumably in full swing producing games. Will there be any sort of enhanced participation by JJP this year at Pinball Expo, as far as, I don't suppose it'll be factory tours, but any promotions going on related to that show?
Well, I would defer to Rob Burke because it's his show, so I don't want to take away anything that he's planning to do. So I'll just let him reply. But yeah, I mean, the factory is nearby, and from what I heard, another factory may be moving by that time, so I don't really know about that. So they were telling me about that the other day. So
Which factory are we talking about? Hot off the press.
Well, I heard that there's another factory that's located nearby that may be moving. It was a rumor.
Yeah, I'd heard that. I heard that they want to demolish that whole side of Lunt Avenue and build it up like they did on the opposite side with huge great warehouses and server farms and things like that. And they were looking for the opportunity to develop that whole side. But I hadn't heard it was definitely happening, but I had heard there was a clock ticking.
Yeah, I don't want to pass a rumor of a rumor, but that's. I guess those are the threads that tie the hobby and industry together. The rumor mill, but that's how it starts. You get 3 or 4 people say something, and all of a sudden it becomes true.
Let's hope we've got a good long lease on your place on Greenleaf then.
Greenleaf. That's such a cool name, Greenleaf.
and so inappropriate given the area.
Well, if it was Brownleaf, that wouldn't be so cool.
It's just so industrialised and a business park really, but it does have nice trees along the street.
Big tree out there full of cicadas chirping all day. It's kind of interesting.
Right. So, in other news this week, we learned that there will be a movie on the story of Roger Sharpe saving pinball. We'll be talking to Roger in our podcast as well. But it also made me wonder, would your story be interesting to become a full-length movie at some point?
Yeah, it'd probably be interesting if you want to fall asleep, I guess. I think it would put me to sleep. You could probably do a movie about anybody, and congratulations to Roger. He's deserves a movie, certainly. And I've been friends with Roger so many years, and he's contributed so much to pinball as well as many other things. With all the licenses he does, I don't think in the industry you'd have companies like Raw Thrills and other companies that he does licenses for even be able to produce the games that they're producing. So it's very cool.
Yeah, it's very unusual to have somebody who works across so many different companies and so many different aspects of the coin-op and entertainment arena.
Yeah, I mean, all the contributions at all the companies he's been with over time and everything, all the help he's given, design ideas and marketing ideas and everything else. So he certainly deserves, maybe, the movie might be too little, but he certainly deserves that. Congratulations to him and his family.
Right. Okay. So, in attendance of the interview with Steve Ritchie that we will be doing hopefully very, very soon, I suppose we sort of touched on all topics that we had in mind to discuss, or is there anything else that you would like to bring up?
I think you covered everything for the moment. I'm happy that You forced me to be. I mean, you asked me to be on the show, and
you give away all our secrets.
It would be strange to not have you on the show.
You guys are like putting on a pair of my favorite sneakers. You know, my favorite running shoes because very comfortable with you both. I know you have the best interest in mind of the industry. Want to promote things in a transparent way, and it's great. You know, you don't have any special agenda. You just want to see everybody do well, and I appreciate that.
Well, we appreciate that you appreciate it.
Now, where's Gary Flower?
Oh, that's what we're always wondering. Yes.
We never know where he is or when he pops up, but he always manages to.
I love Gary. Gary is the best. And when I was inducted into the Pinball Hall of Fame, Gary did a great intro, and he's forever a really great friend. And you should really try to communicate with him and get him on your show once in a while. Man.
We keep trying.
He's
it's so difficult to get him on. I have no idea how to explain it to our listeners. We try every month.
He's like the Scarlet Pimpernel of the pinball. We seek him here, we seek him there. But
I can see people Googling that right now, Martin, because they don't know what that is. You know?
Well, we try and add a little educational value to this PINcast as we possibly can.
We were occasionally we were very close, and then technical difficulties, things that are out of our own control, prevent us from having Gary Flower on the show. So.
With all the technological breakthroughs that we have today, it's just amazing to me that the communication just can't work, doesn't work, won't work. You know, just amazing. You know?
Well, it's always the way. You know, it's like when you're organising a party and you say, you know, be there at 8 in the evening, then everybody from 100, 200, 300 miles away will be there at 8, and the only person who turns up late is the person who lives just down the street. You know, that's kind of the communication that we have with Gary.
Yeah, I see that. You know, Martin, I'm thinking about London, and I'm thinking about a really great TV show on Apple Plus. Did you guys ever see Ted Lasso?
I haven't.
No.
So
on Apple Plus, there's this amazing award-winning show co-created by Jason Sudeikis, who's a big pinball person and a friend, and he's won a Peabody, he's won a Golden Globe. They've been nominated for 20 Emmy Awards, something that never happened with a brand new show. And season 1, was last year, and they film it in London, and it's about a football team, and it's about an American football coach coming to London to coach a soccer team, and he doesn't know anything about soccer. And it's a really cool show, but how it goes back to pinball, not just that Jason Sudeikis loves pinball, but already in the second episode, which season 2 on Apple started the 23rd of July, and in the second episode, that was the 30th of July, there's a Wizard of Oz pinball machine in the pub where everybody goes back to or cheers on team in the background. So I would say to watch that show, not only because it's an amazing show and a really great show, but perhaps the game might get played during this season. Who knows? We'll have to see what happens. But I want to thank really Phil Palmer for getting the game there and lending it to them and everything like that. So it's great to get pinball into a show like that where millions of people are going to see it. And who knows? Maybe some members of the show get to play the game too as we go along. I don't really know. I don't know. Jason hasn't told me. I think it's kind of a surprise between he and I. But I'm glad it was in the second episode of season 2 already.
Perhaps that will be a nice press release for the company then, rather than a coil falling off a shelf. You'll be able to highlight the game.
Who cares
the
about
good
press
thing is
releases if we don't get them?
Well, yeah, it's Apple TV and it's Warner Brothers Television, so certainly to get clearance for Wizard of Oz game through Warner Brothers Television was that sailed right through. And, and you know something about the press release, I have to apologize because I guess I got to look into it. We used the email list that we created years ago, and apparently, our employees weren't on the list, and certain different pinball media wasn't on the list. I don't think I didn't see it, but yesterday I got calls from different people at Replay Magazine and other places that asked me. This was actually Monday night that I got calls and some into yesterday. So I got to be like Santa Claus. I got to check the list twice and make sure that all the naughty and nice people are on it. So
I thought you hired somebody to do that.
Yeah, well, we'll find out, and we'll find out. So I'll give you a full report. Okay, I'll come back and report on what I find and what I don't find.
So but remember, people, getting back to what we were talking about, where you heard it first. Ted Lasso could be an upcoming JJP pinball machine title. And that's how rumors get started.
There you go.
Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't resist. Right? I couldn't resist.
Old talk is good talk.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, we didn't get a denial, or so make what you want.
Yeah, I didn't really think about that. So
that's what I would say as well, Jack. Well done, well done.
So if we do a Ted Lasso pinball machine, I guess you want like one of the games for giving me the idea, right?
I'm not going to say no.
Yeah. Okay, I'll arm wrestle you for it.
Oh, that's okay.
Crazier things have happened, right? Crazier things have happened. I started a pinball company. Right.
So, but if we're going arm wrestling, we need somebody to video it, because that would be great content for YouTube.
I might send in a proxy for me, like in the old days when they had a duel. You get somebody to stand in for you.
Yeah.
So.
You have your
I remember years ago. I'll finish up with this story. I remember years ago at Fantastic, Joe DeRusso's son Joe from Pin Graphics. His son Joey. There was a really long hallway in Sturbridge at the hotel where the show is. It looked like it was a mile-long hallway. And Joey says to me, "Hey, Jersey Jack, you want to race?" I'm like, "What do you mean you want to race?" The kid's like, I don't know, 12 years old. I don't know how old he was. He's like, "You want to race?" Race? What are you talking about? So he taps me and he says, "You're it." And he takes off down the hallway. And I look and I say, "Well, I guess I'm racing this kid." So I ran down the hallway as fast as I could and I actually beat him. And we were all hysterical laughing. And his dad, Joe, says, he's the fastest kid in the school. He's on the track team. I said, "It's okay. That's great." So, I saw him, little Joey ain't so little anymore. He's taller than me. And I saw him at Allentown at the show the other day. And I said to him, "Listen, I don't think I want a rematch because I don't think I'll beat you. I'll rest on my laurels that I beat you when you were, 12 years old or whatever." So, like I said before, everything's got timing, and I felt like Kramer in Seinfeld, which you guys may or may not know.
I know, we know.
We know. Kramer was beating up the little kids in the dojo in karate. I beat the kid when he was little. Now that he could really run, I'm not giving him a rematch. So
yeah, just retire.
I guess the moral of the story is quit while you're ahead. I guess quit while you're ahead.
Yeah. Interesting thought to end on. Okay, thank you very much for joining us, Jack, and giving us all the latest on the events at Jersey Jack Pinball.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. Be well, and I wish the best for everybody listening, and be safe out there.
And that's Jack Guarnieri. Thank you for coming on the show, Jack.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
A lot of good stuff there, I think. Even
apologies for the audio quality. For some, there seemed to be a little hiccup in there that sort of split words and then it continued.
Yeah,
but
I heard that.
Everything is there. So
It's always good to have Jack on, because he can give us a different perspective on the pinball industry and what's happening at Jersey Jack Pinball as well.
Right. Yeah. And well, there's obviously more news from Jersey Jack as well. So let's quickly go through that as well.
Yes, as happens from time to time, they have these factory finds, as they call them, which I'm not sure exactly whether it really means that they're going through opening crates and finding parts which they didn't know they had, or whether they're just doing a sort of promotion on a particular item. But in July there were 2 items that were available as part of their factory finds. Well, I think the third one didn't come up until a bit later, but at the beginning of the month, there was the playfield protectors were available for the Wizard of Oz playfields and mini playfields. Right. And printed manuals for the game Dialed In were both available, but they both sold out. They both sold out very quickly, actually, to be fair. Okay. So unless you were across their social media and got in quickly, you wouldn't have got those. So they've been sold out. But subsequent to that, there are also been. I don't know if you know the game The Hobbit, but when the ball rolls through one of the in lanes, a character pops up out of the playfield like a troll from Medieval Madness, and there are 4 of those. And if you wanted to buy, may have gone by now, but I don't think so. I think they're still available. Wanted to buy those faces, which are on the targets which pop up, 4 of them. You could buy those for $39, which is a pretty good deal, I'd say. They are things which are shot from very close to the flippers, so they're liable to suffer damage over time. Right. Definitely worth having a spare set if you've got a Hobbit game, and nice to just pop on the desk and as a talking point for when people go back to the office for their co-workers to ask what on earth those are. Right. $39 for the 4 from available through the new Jersey Jack Pinball shop front at pinballwizard.com. All one word, Pinball Wizard. And that said, they're operating 2 storefronts. Effectively, they've got pinballwizard.com, and there's also a store on the jerseyjackpinball.com site which sells more specific parts for you and spares for individual games. So they haven't united those yet or combined them, which would make sense. I guess everything should be in one place to avoid confusion. Right. But so go to jerseyjackpinball.com, and at the top select store, and you can find some game-specific parts like boards and ramp protectors and things like that.
Okay, well, and what's also interesting to note, Jen Guarnieri, that's Jack's daughter, she sent out a note, I believe, to distributors, which was saying that Guns N' Roses playfield will be available for purchase after the end of the production, which is expected to be in the summer of 2022. So basically that means that Jersey Jack Pinball will be running Guns N' Roses at least for another year. It looks like it. At least 10 months. Summer being, I guess, June, July and August. So, it could be that long. But it doesn't mean that we won't see a new game from Jersey Jack Pinball coming out in the meantime. No. As we heard from Jack, he said they're looking at setting up a second line and running other products. Maybe even a third one. Maybe even a third, yeah. So it doesn't necessarily mean we won't see another title or another product coming out from Jersey Jack. But, yes, if you were hanging your hopes on getting a replacement playfield for Guns N' Roses to sort any of the playfield problems out that we talked about, or even just to hang on the wall or as a bit of memorabilia, then you're going to have to wait this part of a year for that. Right. So, I think that sums it up for Jersey Jack Pinball. Yeah, it's been a very busy month for them. So, less busy, one street away at Stern Pinball.
It's they didn't comment on the loss of Steve Ritchie.
Yeah, which is, some say that's not surprising. On the other hand, I think it would be classy to wish to publicly announce and wish Steve the best in his future endeavors.
Yeah, I mean, as I've mentioned before, it's a relatively small business, the pinball industry, and just because people are working in one company now doesn't mean they're going to be working there forever. And people move between various pinball manufacturers, and now there are more of them. Right. So but basically you don't want to burn your bridges, do you, when you leave a company? And and as you say, if you can keep on good terms with people, even if they depart, it could come in handy later if they were to ever to return.
Well, if Steve was on good terms with certain people, I think he'd still be at Stern Pinball, but
yeah,
we'll hear from Steve shortly, so hopefully he can elaborate on that. What I do find interesting is, obviously, and this is also something that we'll be asking Steve in the upcoming interview that we'll be doing. Obviously, Steve by himself is not a pinball design team. He needs more people. No. So the question is, what is Tim Saxon going to be doing? And some other people at Stern Pinball, will they also jump ship, or is Steve going to be contracting people from somewhere else?
Well, it is interesting because Jack did mention that the pinball design is more than one person, and they need to have a team to support their increased number of designers. So they will need more programmers, more artists, more sound people, more mechanical engineers.
Exactly,
everything. Yeah, everything that goes into building a game.
Right.
So whether they will be recruiting or whether they already have that capability, and we don't know at the moment. But Steve we'll ask Steve about that when we get to talk to him.
So Steve left Stern. So let's see what other news there is to report on Stern Pinball.
Yes, I suppose it's one of those things which we knew, but we haven't reported, and kind of assumed that other people knew, but apparently it wasn't the case. But Steve is some of his greatest games, I'd say, like AC/DC, and what else would we possibly say would be a great game from Steve.
You have to think about great games from Steve Ritchie.
Well, so many to pick from, that's the thing. Yes, his great collaborator on pinball games over there, most successful, you might argue, is Lyman Sheets, as far as the software development goes. And they produce some great work together. And Lyman actually left Stern Pinball at the end of last year. I think it was November. I think he wanted to keep it quiet. I think Stern didn't want to make an announcement about it for obvious reasons.
Okay,
but there were a lot of people, I think, who were waiting for software updates that would have had the polish and finesse that Lyman would have applied to them to finish off the software in various games.
Right. Well, it can mean two things actually, because Lyman is known for working on game software in his own time.
He certainly is. Yeah.
Yeah. So either it can mean that Stern is no longer going to be updating that software, or it can mean that Lyman might be doing it on his own time. Although,
or he could be doing it under contract, of course, to Stern. He might be coming back and doing contract work for him, rather than being a full-time employee.
We don't know the conditions that Lyman left Stern. If he left on good conditions, or whether he burned some bridges, we don't know that.
We don't. That's true, but we can hope. I mean, we're not entirely sure exactly where he's gone and what he's working on at the moment.
Although there have been rumors that he might be working on Chicago Gaming's next remake title, which also have been denied by Chicago Gaming. So
so we'll take it from them that he's not working on that. But there are certainly some unfinished issues in AC/DC which people were hoping would be completed. and bring it up to the same level of completeness as I suppose Spider-Man was the classic combination of the two, which seems to be a complete and fully rounded package.
Right.
So we can hope that Lyman stays within the pinball industry wherever it is he's working, because he's obviously got a huge talent when it comes to understanding rule sets. But he also, and I don't know whether this is one of the reasons that he did leave. He was instrumental in developing the firmware for the various board systems that Stern Pinball have used over the years.
Right.
And I guess they're not planning on producing a new version of the hardware, the board set and the controller. So maybe that level of work isn't there anymore. And he, as far as I understand it, he'd been kind of kicking his heels for a while and didn't really have a particular project. He was never the programmer on any one game. I don't think he wanted to be either. So
yeah,
it's probably for the best, really, that he's if he could find something which is more to his liking than hanging around Stern picking up bits and pieces.
Yeah, well, I'm not very close to Lyman. We met a couple of times in the past, but I certainly got the feeling that he wasn't very happy in the position that he was in the last time I saw him, and that was like Expo 2 years ago.
Mm. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so as I say, probably for the best for everyone, really. But anyway, he did leave, and it's a shame for those who are looking forward to seeing more pinball software from Lyman, because he had that skill that he could come in and not just finesse, but in some cases completely rewrite the rules of a game which was not considered that exciting. So right. He could completely transform the game from a mediocre one to a very well regarded one.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Let's hope he can do that in the future as well.
Right. So, well, it's although Lyman left a couple of months ago already, it must be tough for Stern Pinball to see two of these top talents go.
Yes, although we don't know the terms under which they left, so we don't know whether it was of their own choosing to leave, or whether the company was looking to move in a different direction.
Right. So, anyway, other news from Stern.
Yeah. I think we mentioned this a while ago that the Walmart were offering a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle goodie box, which included a whole bunch of things like magnets and hats and keychains and a T-shirt and a Shredder action figure. Well, apparently Stern are now offering those as well. I don't know whether Walmart have stopped doing that, or whether Walmart had an exclusive on it originally, and now it's become non-exclusive, and others can offer it as well. But of course, it includes Jeremy Packer's artwork, which is so distinctive, as seen of the style seen on the game, I should say, not the same artwork. But so if you want to get that, then you can head over to the Stern shop on sternpinball.com, and you can buy it from them directly. And I don't know whether it will be available from distributors around the world, or whether you have to go directly to Stern. But maybe worth inquiring with your distributor to see if they've got it.
And apparently they only have like 100 units. I don't think the box was limited to 100 units, but apparently the Stern shop only has 100. Okay.
Yeah, maybe that's all they ordered in the first batch, and see how it goes.
Or that's how many leftovers they could find from various Walmarts that were cleaning out the aisles, and we got this, and they put it all in one warehouse, and okay, who wants them?
Maybe, but I had the impression that they were selling very fast in Walmart. They were a very sought after item, and people were scouring around multiple different.
Well, there's a lot of Walmart, so if you collect them, and then there's one left in every 3 Walmarts, then you might easily get to 100 easily. I'm not sure how many Walmarts there are, but anyway, it doesn't matter. If you're interested in that kit, then head to the Stern shop and order one for yourself.
Yep. In other Stern news, Stern Pinball, I suppose the Heads Up Pinball Invitational Tournament, which was held a while ago, and I think we mentioned it on this PINcast as well. But it was recorded and it's being shown in the US on the ESPN 8 channel, which I think is sort of almost like a pop-up channel, which is not there permanently, but shows some more eclectic sports and competition events. Well, it's back, and on the Friday the 6th of August at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time in the US, they will be showing the Stern Heads Up Pinball Invitational.
Wasn't that tournament that we were wondering, like, okay, there's only a handful of competitors and everybody can... Basically, it looked like if you were a good pinball player, you had a very good chance to winning a pinball machine.
Yes, that's right. I can't remember exactly how many players there were at the time. It was 8, but that number seemed to spring to mind. But yes, it was, the clues in the word invitational.
Right.
So it wasn't open to everybody. But I think the intention is to make it more open and allow more people to sort of qualify for the finals through various stages.
Right. Okay. And then we also have some new code from Stern for a couple of games.
Yeah, I knew you'd be excited by that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me grab my pillow.
Okay. Well, I'll do the duty then. Led Zeppelin, a couple of updates in July. On the 13th was version 1.04, 22nd version 1.05. The first one, 104, was quite a large update with new speech and changes to scoring and rules, new multi-ball jackpots, quite a few tweaks down the menus and light indicators and player selection things were. But the latter one was just fixed a couple of bugs that were introduced in the earlier one. So 1.05, the latest at the moment on Led Zeppelin. And Mandalorian, the current title from Stern, that's on version 0.97 as of the 13th of July. As you'd expect in these sort of fairly early days, there's quite a lot of changes going on. So there are new rules and features, combos, hurry-ups, a new multi-ball mode, and adjustments to scoring, and of course the usual bunch of bug fixes.
Right.
So it's 0.97 on the Mandalorian, and probably won't be long before it's up to version 1.
Right. Now, speaking of the Mandalorian, did you happen to see the Grogu update? That's the Baby Yoda doll.
It's not a Baby Yoda.
Well, whatever it is.
Yeah, the child. Yes.
The child, whatever it's called. I don't watch the show. I know you do, so you.
I just started watching it actually. Just watched the first 3 episodes because I thought I ought to know something about it before I actually get to play the game. And it's got me a bit worried. It started off interesting, but when you got to the 3rd episode, I think, and now I'm worried it's going in a direction I'm not going to enjoy. But we'll see. I think I probably learned enough from the first 2 episodes to actually understand the entire game.
Right.
But,
okay.
But yes.
But so to give credit where credit is due, I think it was Joe Abate who modded the Mandalorian game with a moving Grogu doll. Mm-hmm. And I have to say, it looks absolutely stunning. It really makes me wonder, assuming it's a bill of materials matter, how can you not put in that doll? Because I can only imagine you'd sell hundreds, if not thousands, of more games by going with a moving doll instead of a static doll.
Was this using a sort of production model of the doll, of a moving doll? One you could buy in a toy shop?
It's an off-the-shelf toy, which is wired, and it was just wired to a couple of switches in the game, and it moves. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't grab the ball or it doesn't juggle with it or what have you. No. But it's so freaking cute.
and interactive as well, which is the key thing. When you hit the right switch, something happens.
I mean, if I would be an operator, I would be really disappointed at the doll not moving because it could be very attractive to get people to play the game.
Yeah, even in attract mode, it would be good if you could get it to move and turn. So if people wanted to look at this and possibly, if they have a Mandalorian, wanted to fit this themselves, where would they find the information?
I think the best chance you have is search for Joe Abate on Facebook. That's where I saw it. So
yeah, I think that's right.
I think there's a couple of, or there is a Pinball Modders group as well, which shared it. So, and you might even find it on the Stern Pinball page, although I'm not sure whether they shared it.
Yeah, I doubt they do that.
But absolutely, I take my hat off to Joe for implementing that doll, because to me it looks like something that should have been in the game from day one.
I think you're right. I think a lot of people have been saying that. Yeah. Good.
So.
Okay. So I think that's all on news from Stern Pinball. So where shall we go next?
Australia, mate.
Australia. Okay. So, well, I assume we must be talking about Haggis Pinball and their. Well, I suppose we're talking about their Clan Haggis.
Goodies,
club.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the last time what we reported is they have been sending out goodies, but not everything was in-house. So they have been sending out the second batch of stuff so that people have everything that they ordered or were expecting from becoming a Clan Haggis member.
Yeah, I think it was only a couple of small items like a pin badge and maybe a decal or a magnet or something. But it was, they were waiting, had supply issues, which is a phrase we are hearing a lot of and will doubtless be hearing a lot of over the coming months as well. But thankfully they sorted that out, and a small little package of those extra items has been sent to everybody who signed up for the Clan Haggis. So congratulations to them and to Haggis for doing that.
Right. And while we're on the other side of the world, let's move north a little bit to Taiwan, where Homepin is located. And we know that Homepin is working on a licensed pinball title.
We do, because we heard it from Mike.
Yes, and that the game should be coming out this year. And actually, Mike has been teasing September for a review. And he's also been teasing a little bit what the license might be. Yeah,
there's been a couple of images, one video and one image posted recently. One homemade video, which talks about taking your pinball to 11.
Yes.
And
the 11th floor, that is.
Yes, and then just I think yesterday there was a tease of a 7-Eleven logo, the convenience store chain. So more about the number 11, but that's all so far, and people have been speculating as to which 11 they're talking about, whether it's Ocean's 11 or what. Right. So, yeah, I don't know. Well, I do know.
The 11th floor could be a good floor to toss your game out the window and see how it crashes. Not necessarily saying you should do that with the upcoming game from Homepin, not at all. But
no.
Well, 11th floor makes sense to me. I mean,
but more news from Homepin about they posted some pictures on their Facebook page, I think, of a new metal lock bar they're planning to use on their upcoming game. It's the previous one in Thunderbirds was a plastic one with a metal rod inside, and the new one is all metal and red powder coated, which looks very nice.
Right. So personally, I have to say the plastic lock bar wasn't an issue for me.
No, I don't think it was really. It's just just something that people could mention about. Just they're talking about cost cutting or lack of I wouldn't say lack of quality, because it was perfectly serviceable part. But if they wanted to beat Homepin around the head with something, then they had the plastic lock bar that they could use. But now the next one will have a red metal powder coated lock bar.
It looks to be latched inside the cabinet, similar to what Stern Pro games are currently.
Well, I think all games are now, to be honest.
Yeah, even the limited edition ones.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
They also showed an up kicker mechanism as well from this upcoming licensed game. But if you looked in the background of the image, there was a was a UK flag, which was sort of a bit out of focus. But don't know why that would be there. Maybe it was a clue to the theme of the game that's coming up. Don't know. But,
I thought Britain had invaded Taiwan.
Well, I haven't checked the news lately, but not last time I looked. But it's you tend to find with Mike that he doesn't tend to put things out unless they have a reason. He's very precise about his use of words and images.
Right.
So
okay.
Just put that out there, and you can make your own mind up.
Hold on, I got a call coming in from our good friend Gary.
Gary Stern.
I hope it's not a disappointment, but it's Gary Flower.
Oh, okay. Well, that's never a disappointment. Okay, let's see what Gary has to say. Gary Flower,
okay.
And maybe he has some information from Stern.
Well, usually he has, so it's a good reason for him to call. And yes, let's get him on.
Yeah, come on, bring him on before he rings off.
Hi, Gary.
Hi there. So I just thought I'd ring. I'm actually at a gig at the moment, but I thought I'd just ring and tell you about the new game from Stern. But it's getting too noisy.
Awful noisy. Where are you?
I'll have to call you back. Cheers.
Oh. Okay.
I suppose he's gone. That's it. I was in I don't know, some sort of event. I don't know.
Yeah, the gig, he said. So I didn't know he was going to a gig, but okay.
Well, I didn't know gigs were allowed again.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, it started up again over here. So we'll try.
I seem to be in quite a rush. I'm.
Yeah, he always is. If he is available to come back and there's a quieter period, maybe he can call back and we'll put him straight on again.
Right. Okay.
July was the month when we were expecting to get an update on the latest development at Deeproot Pinball, because Robert Mueller, who's the head there, said they would produce an update and bring everybody up to date on what's been going on with the development of Raza. Soon after the July the 4th weekend holiday.
Right.
And,
So what did we find out?
Well, we had to wait a little bit after the 4th of July. We had to wait until the 30th, actually, or almost the last day of the month. One day to go. But it was one of those sort of Friday afternoon, let's put out a message before anybody can get back to us or ring us up and ask what's going on. Break bad news last thing on a Friday afternoon. In this case, the bad news was that there's no news really. All that Robert had to impart was that from his last offer of refund to people who couldn't wait any longer, 3 people got those refunds. That's not to say it's only 3 people applied, so only 3 got them. Those refunds are no longer available. So. The number of Razas to be produced is reduced by 3, I guess, if they ever are produced. And unfortunately, due to some undisclosed legal challenge to the game, it can't give an update on development or part supply or certification or production plans or indeed even give a date for when the next update is going to be. So
undisclosed legal challenge. What does that mean?
We don't know. It's undisclosed. It could be anything from
it's a legal challenge. So it's not so much a part supply, but legal. I tend to think in terms of creative ownership or something.
Yeah, John or rights. Yeah.
Yes, the intellectual property. So could it be that they are facing an intellectual property cease and desist or of some kind?
Possible. The only person who I thought would have been in a position to do that directly was Bill Brand, who bought the rights to build the games from John Popaduke originally, and then we saw the Magic Girl game turn up at Seattle. Excuse me there.
Bless you.
Just sneezing. Coughing. Hope I haven't got anything. But then Bill has posted on Pinside to say that it's nothing to do with him, and he'd never do that. Wouldn't hold up production of the games in that way. So it's apparently not him. So we really don't know exactly who it is and what their claim is. It may actually be, nothing directly related to the game in that way, and it could be, about, I don't know, it could be about the office or the facility that they're working in, that they're not allowed to do manufacturing in it, or it could be that they're not allowed to use certain parts which they thought they were going to be able to use because they're Bally Williams parts and they're not licensed, or I don't know. There's so many things that undisclosed legal challenge could cover that, and of course that's the intention.
Somebody patented the pin bar without them knowing it?
Well, maybe somebody's got the name and is not allowed them to use it. I don't know. It could be, it could be somebody who was involved in producing some artwork or something as part of Deeproot Studios, right, or an outside contractor who didn't get paid or is challenging the payments, or so many things could be included in that. It's
a good thing that Robert Mueller is a lawyer then.
Yes, absolutely. If you want anybody on the case, he's the guy.
Robert Mueller to the rescue.
I did reach out to Robert to ask if he wanted to come on onto our PINcast and give us any update, and didn't get a reply on that. So I guess not. I guess he doesn't want to say anything more about it other than what he's already announced.
Okay. So when do we expect to hear from Deeproot
we don't.
with a new update? We don't?
No date set. No. So you'll find out when you find out, I think, is the answer. And if it's a legal challenge, if it really is a legal challenge that goes anywhere, then...
It could be months.
It could be months, could be years. Yeah.
Oh, well. Okay, so moving on, obviously in Texas, hopefully there will be news soon, but for now let's move on to other pinball companies that are actually producing games. Well, Pinball Brothers didn't have any news necessarily, but they did post a video, or actually their playfield supplier posted a video of an alien playfield being waxed and buffed, or whatever you call it.
Yeah, polished, yeah.
Although I have to say, it looked shinier before they started polishing it, and then it became a sort of dull. So I'm not sure whether that was the entire process, or whether
I don't think so. No, I think it's just partial. Yeah.
Right. So, and it showed the same process for a number of Bally Williams playfields as well. My conclusion watching that video is it's very time consuming.
Yeah, it certainly looked like. Well, we've seen that to a degree when we were at Chicago Gaming, when they were producing the playfields. We saw how long those took. I don't think they were doing quite the same level of polishing on them that Brunner and Towson, who are the playfield manufacturers for the Alien playfields, put into theirs.
Right. So, but don't you think there is a way to sort of automate that process? Put something together where you have 10 buffers cluttered together that are all being driven at the same time. So it takes a lot less time, because I think it took 5 minutes to do 2 buff on playfield.
Well, I wonder whether that is a sort of a special case for certain playfields where a more automated process didn't produce quite the result, or there was a flaw in them, so they were polishing it out. It may not be they do that for every single one, because you're right, it wouldn't get. Well, even so, if it takes 5 minutes, or even if it takes 10 minutes, and you can produce 6 an hour, you're still producing playfields faster than they can produce games. So that's the only requirement, really, isn't it?
Right. Okay. So moving on to our second headline.
Yeah. Well, we spoke about it really, or at least some of it, in last month's PINcast, which was the launch of the Halloween game from Spooky Pinball.
Yeah. Well, the game was sort of, to remind everybody, the game was The title was announced, but we had not seen any images of the game. And there was a rumor that there would be a second game using the same layout, but that wasn't confirmed either. So we just had to wait. And then Spooky surprised everybody, I suppose.
Yeah, well, Halloween we knew, and the number was 1,250 of those were going to be built. But
Initially they announced 1,000, and it was up to 1,250.
Right, okay. And the second title came out, and it was Ultraman.
Right.
For which 500 games will be built. And, well, to me, Ultraman is a complete non-theme, because I have no idea what it is. It's not part of my childhood, but apparently for those growing up in America, it was very popular as a sort of Saturday morning children's cartoon series.
Yeah. But then again, a rather odd one, I have to say. I did watch a couple of episodes just to satisfy my curiosity.
Okay.
I'm not sure which is more violent, Ultraman or Halloween. I mean, seriously. Obviously, Halloween is a horror movie, and several people die and get stabbed and what have you. I've never seen the movie, so I wouldn't know. And no intention either to watch the movie, because I'm really not into horror movies or whatever.
No.
So Ultraman is a sort of kids or a show for kids. And I saw an episode where a couple of people who tried to rescue something on an island or what have you eventually got trapped with some monsters being on that island. And then Ultraman comes to the rescue, and he has this big circular saw that he basically frisbees to the monsters,
right,
cutting off their arms or splitting them in half or cutting off their heads. Obviously, these are you can clearly see these are dolls or what have you. But if you think about it, the violence, oh my God. How can that be a children's show? I mean, cutting someone in half or chopping off a head. I mean, it sounds like a series that could have been easily... that you might expect in I don't know, Afghanistan or something like that. But this is American TV, and apparently it's considered to be amusement.
Yeah, for kids, I suppose. For big kids, so anyway.
I was sort of, well, I wouldn't say in shock, but I did raise my eyebrows like, really? Okay, so I'm not sure which is the more violent game, but either way, in both cases, Spooky came up with a very interesting or cool-looking topper, I have to say. On Halloween, the stabbing knife, and on Ultraman, the razor's edge frisbee or whatever you want to call it, the metal blade that's circling around. So, oh well. Right. And well, the good news for Spooky, both games sold out in a matter of hours. Yes,
an unusual option on 3 different versions. In the standard, the Bloodsucker edition, which as we saw on Rick and Morty, and the collector's edition. But there's no fixed split between them. So although there were 1,750, whatever is ordered, that's however many of each edition are made. So right. if all 1,750 are collector editions, then that's what they'll make, and none of the others.
Right. So actually, we should probably reach out to Spooky Pinball, because I'm actually curious how these numbers are split up. On the other hand, I can very well understand if they don't want to make that public, because once you know how these numbers are divided, you also know how much money they made, and or money will be coming in, and so on. And that you might consider that information you don't want to make public.
That's true, and I would guess there might actually be some I say wiggle room, some opportunity for people to change their minds as well. You know, they might have ordered the standard, but when it comes, the standards are being made last. So I think they might decide, well, okay, maybe I'll move that up to a Bloodsucker edition that I can get in a bit earlier and get the extra features that come with that. It may not be locked down from the mode of purchase, and people might want to trade. They might decide they want to have one, but then think, well, actually no, I think I'd rather have another one once they've seen them. So it may not be a fixed number yet. Right.
Okay. So now everybody's curious to see gameplay video of both Ultraman and Halloween. So far there have been no official streams, but that shouldn't take long. There has been a video of two guys playing at I believe it was a horror or event or something like that, where the Halloween game was set up. Not sure whether you've seen it.
Yes, I did see that actually. They were apparently actors from horror films who were playing it, but I don't know who they are, not being a horror fan. So it didn't mean a lot to me, and we didn't actually get to see very much of it because the way it was shot was more from the side. You couldn't really see much of the playfield.
Right. So what I found rather interesting is the music is very it's probably the original music from the movie, which reminded me a lot of Tubular Bells by Mike Oldfield.
Oh yeah,
which was a successful album at that time. So it's not a surprise that music was, or the similar style music was used in that movie and the pinball machine. But it didn't strike me. Yeah, it didn't strike me as pinball music, to be completely honest. It's just, it's a scary tune, no drums or what have you. It's just these sort of Tubular Bells sound, that melody, and it has a certain vibe to it, but it's not a vibe that would get me excited playing pinball. I mean, it's not Total Nuclear Annihilation or something like that. No, far from it.
But talking about machines that were actually out there for people to see, the Ultraman machine turned up at the Pinfest in Allentown last weekend. Now, obviously, these games are being supplied by Spooky, but they're not a marketing exercise because all the games are already sold. So really, they're just out there in order for people to enjoy them and to just spread word about the upcoming games that people start to see.
Here's what you missed out on.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Or here's what you bought, and now you finally get to see it.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Yeah. So that was you may. Well, I'm sure you will see either or both of those games, either Halloween or Ultraman, turning up at some of the big game shows, such as the Southern Fried Gaming Expo in Atlanta, in Georgia, which is later this month on the 20th to the 22nd, where Charlie Emery will be presenting a seminar talking about Spooky and no doubt talking about Halloween and Ultraman games. So I'm sure he will bring some games along with him for people to enjoy.
Yeah, most likely. So, and in other news, apparently Spooky started a new technical service line, or phone that is, so you can call with a real person answering your technical questions, I suppose.
Wow.
And if you feel the need to do that, then the number is 815-541-4940.
Good, and if you didn't get that down, I'm sure if you go to spookypinball.com, you will find the details on there as well.
Right. So, okay, and that rounds it up for Spooky Pinball. Congratulations on selling out both Halloween and Ultraman.
Yes, we keep them busy.
And the good news is production has already started.
Yeah, it's anticipated to last 12 months, I think, to produce all those. So, I guess that's going to be, what's that, 150 a month, I suppose, around about that.
Well, that's very ambitious for a small company, but hey, if they can do it, kudos for them.
Yeah, pretty good. Right, so moving on to, let's go to Chicago Gaming.
Right, you found something interesting I hadn't heard about, but so I'll let you discuss that.
Yes, there was apparently there have been some scam emails which appear to have come from Chicago Gaming asking people to make payments on games. In fact, this is a message from Ryan White there, who said it's come to my attention that a specific email address within Chicago Gaming may have been compromised. I'm not sure that's entirely true, because it says it goes on to say that somebody posing as from the Chicago Gaming Company office have been requesting funds to be wired to them for payment on games, and they are using a cloned pro forma invoice request, which I guess they must have had access to at some point. So either they're a previous customer or have managed to hack into the Chicago Gaming systems. This says the potential scammers are promising Medieval Madness, Attack from Mars and Monster Bash with the prepayment wired directly to them. And they have copied signatures of the staff and are using a domain called Chicago-Gamnig, or GAMNIG.com, so easily mistaken for ChicagoGaming.com. And he says, should you receive an email from this domain, it is not from Chicago Gaming. They said they only sell their games through authorised dealers and do not sell direct to the community. So if you get anything from Chicago, appearing to come from Chicago Gaming, saying they're selling you, they will sell you a game cheap, it's a scam. Okay.
Right. Okay. So, and there's more news regarding Chicago Gaming. I did call Ryan White to basically check with him whether there was there any news or updates, and he did have some interesting news to share with me. You just mentioned the Southern Fried Gaming Expo taking place later this month, and Ryan basically confirmed to me that he will be doing a seminar on the history of Chicago Gaming and Churchill cabinets, which is, as you may know, a very long history in the coin-op amusement industry.
Yes,
because they have been producing cabinets and playfields for pinball machines, but also video games and what have you. And well, Ryan is going to be talking about that and probably a lot more at his seminar, which I believe is supposed to be on Friday at the like I said, Southern Fried Gaming Expo.
Yes, so that's in
So
Atlanta.
if you happen to attend,
Georgia.
then make sure that you visit Ryan's, I should say, seminar as well.
Yeah, they haven't actually published the schedule of events yet for that, so we can't say exactly when it's going to be. But both he and Charlie will be there presenting. So, yeah,
right.
It should be a good show. It's always a good show, and another couple of good reasons to attend if you possibly can.
I haven't been there, but I'd love to go.
Yes, me too. I would probably have gone this year, but sadly, not to be.
Right, okay. So, well, usually you give the next manufacturer to me,
Yep.
Dutch Pinball.
Mm-hmm.
But you had actually some news that I didn't know about, so I'll let you handle this one.
Okay, well, I just saw that I don't know if you know that for the Big Lebowski game, you have the option to buy an illuminated apron,
Yes.
which is the one that's it's not the same as the one which is on the Early Achiever model, but it's similar. So
Right.
basically, the apron has inserts in it which light up and twinkle and that kind of thing. So those are available. That apron is available as an extra, but there have been some delays in making those available because of supply chain delays. So back to that again. When it comes to the actual inserts, not the metal frame, but just getting the inserts made. So,
Right.
but apparently it's not going to take long, and they should be available within the next month or so. But at the moment,
Okay.
if you wanted one of those, you can't get it just yet.
Right, yeah. I talked to Barry as well for the same reason I talked to Ryan, just to check up and see whether there's any news. And well, basically Barry said there's no news to report. They are still building games, but due to the supply chain delays, not yet at the pace that they would like to see. So, but they definitely are well, they're still manufacturing games. That's the most important part. So hopefully it will be solved. But then again, I understand that they have the option to choose from different suppliers for certain parts, and in some cases, the desired manufacturer has a delivery time of, or a production schedule where the requested part will be taken into production in 51 weeks, which is close to a year.
Yeah.
So that's not what you want to wait for. So obviously alternatives are being found.
Yes.
But it's keeping Barry very busy. I did make a suggestion to him where he might be able to find some parts, and hopefully that will lead to shorter or delivery times. Let's put it like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well.
So and that's all the news I could find on Dutch Pinball as well. So.
Okay. So let's head back across the Atlantic then and see what American Pinball have been up to. Last time we spoke to David Fix, he was expecting to release their next, or announce their next title during the summer.
Right.
We haven't heard.
That was already
yet.
2 episodes ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, it was, we're expecting it to be in June, and it didn't happen, and also didn't happen in July either. So we haven't got any coverage in this particular Pincast about what their next title is. But,
although there have been rumours.
Well, yeah, we hear a lot about it's going to be a re-themed version of the Legends of Valhalla game, but no confirmation on that, and it's one of those cases that we won't know until it's announced.
Okay, well then we just have to wait and see.
Yeah,
well, let's move on immediately to the next manufacturer. How about Multimorphic in Texas?
Well, I haven't found any news from them either. I've been hunting around, haven't heard any announcements about any more games. Although they've been pretty busy recently with their mini games for mainly coming from Nick Baldridge with the Silver Falls game, and preceded by Ranger in the Ruins. So they've been certainly been busy recently, but in the past month, I couldn't find any more information.
Right, okay. There's just one extra item I'd like to address regarding Dutch Pinball.
Oh, yeah.
Which I just remembered. Haven't told you either, but the southern part of the Netherlands, which I suppose the province of Limburg, which is where Dutch Pinball is located, suffered heavy floods, as did parts of Germany and Belgium. So I reached out to Barry because Roermond, the city where they are located, was actually also partly flooded. But luckily for Barry and people waiting for a game, their current building is nowhere near the river or anything like that, so they were able to keep their feet dry.
Oh, good. Yes, there's been some horrendous flooding particularly in Germany, but yes, in the whole area. Yeah.
Right. So I just remembered, so I figured I'd mention that as well. So.
Good point. Okay. Well, let's move to probably our last. Well, I'd say pinball manufacturer, but they haven't actually manufactured
not the last
games.
news, but nowhere near. We still have the third headline to come.
Well, we do, but I was going through the manufacturers, and one who are a wannabe manufacturer, and that's Pinball Adventures. We mentioned last month that their website seems to have been taken down, and we were expecting a revamped version. Well, it's still down, and there's no news on when it's going to come back. So it's surprising. So all the stuff about Punny Factory and subsequent titles is no longer there. Although, as we said last time, if you look on the Wayback Machine, which is archive.org, and have a look at pinballbuzz.com, then you can actually browse older versions of the website and find some of that stuff, which has been been archived away by them. So
right. So
in the meantime,
there might still be some news in the sense that hold on. No news. I was just looking on Facebook on the page of Team Pinball, but I couldn't find it. Although I just did, but it wasn't the first hit. So I was wondering. For a second, I had the impression that site was down as well, but it's not. It's still there.
Good. Okay. Well, because they're working on the second game and potentially other projects. Yes. Which we can't talk about at the moment, but might be able to soon.
Yeah,
okay.
We know they're very, very exciting, and we can't wait to tell you all about it.
Yes, but we will. So, yes, our third headline then, which relates to the Museum of Pinball in Banning in California.
Yes, and, it's very sad news, I suppose, unless you're looking to buy a game. But the museum is closing down, and they will auction off their entire collection. Yes,
it's. I can't remember whether they had any mention of it last time or not, but the museum was planning to move, or had plans to move to Palm Springs to a nice refurbished building there, and where they would be able to open 7 days a week, as opposed to about the 4 or 5 times a year that they are allowed to open in their existing location in Banning. And because Banning is kind of out in the desert a bit and doesn't have anything like the same kind of facilities that they could have had nearby if they were in Palm Springs. Well, unfortunately, all that fell apart. It would take an awful lot longer, an awful lot more money to get the Palm Springs base going and get it refurbished up to the standard they need for the museum. And it basically became a non-starter. So then the option was, well, what can they do? Because they'd already signed a contract to lease out the building that the museum currently lives in. They are going to lease that out to a company that produces marijuana, which is legal there. So they are moving in.
And apparently very profitable.
Yes, no surprise. Far more profitable than a museum of pinball. So basically, the museum had to be out by October, and with nowhere to go and nowhere to store the games, and they decided that the owners, which are John and Jonathan Weeks, basically decided they're going to sell the whole lot off and close it all down. So that's what they're doing. All the machines that are in the museum and the ones that are in storage as well, in separate buildings.
Right.
So and that's about 900 pinballs in the museum, and is that right? No, it's
over 40,000 square feet of 1,100 rare vintage and modern pinball machines and classic arcade games. That's how it's advertised on the auction poster or brochure, if you want to call it, which I just happened to stumble upon. There's 2 big weekends where this auction will take place. The first weekend is September 10 to 12, and the second weekend is September 24 to 26, which is awfully close to the 1st of October, I would say.
Yes, so 2 weeks apart. It's being run by Captain's Auctions, I believe. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, it will be both on-site and online. So you will be able to bid on those games if you without actually having to go to Banning. But that said, they will have to clear the site very quickly afterwards. So you need to make arrangements for your purchases to be picked up and removed from the site as soon as possible.
Right. So that must be a terrible site. Building up such a collection takes obviously years and years and years, and then 2 weekends and everything will be gone.
I know, there's so much work gone into restoring those and keeping them up and running and building the collection, and it's just such a shame. We've both been there, and it is an amazing collection, and some of the older games in there as well. You can find machines that you just won't see in any other location.
Right. So I'm very curious how this will play out, so to speak, because usually these auctions, I mean, with pinball, there's always it's a matter of the demand and what's available. But in this case, there's so much available that usually results in rather low prices for games, and I don't expect any of the current Stern or JCAP games to go for very much. Well, they're not. They won't be going for $2,000 or less. But with all the electromechanical games in that collection, I fear you might be picking up many of those for bargain prices.
Well, I think
unless there's a certain reserve, but then again, I don't know what this.
They can't reserve, can they? Because they have to sell them.
Right. So, but well, they could work with the reserve the first weekend, and then the second weekend maybe lose the reserve and hopefully sell the games. And I still wonder what will happen to the games that are not being sold.
Yeah, well, perhaps everything has to be sold. Perhaps there are no reserves at all. It's generally the case that the prices are high initially, and then as the auction continues, people who are looking to buy probably bought everything they wanted to buy, and there are fewer bidders towards the tail end of the list of items. So that's where you can get the good bargains. That's certainly the case in the auctions that I've been to.
I haven't been to any of these auctions, but I do remember that the David Silverman collection was being auctioned, and those prices were far from what originally was being paid for those games, I suppose.
Yes, the National Pinball Museum. That was another sad story, but and what with the closing of the Papa, the Replay Effects collection as well.
Didn't keep an eye on the prices of those games, but
no, they were mostly sold privately. I think the prices that were being asked were very high, and I don't know how. I think they certainly weren't all achieved. And after that, there are some job lots of games available at cheaper prices. Right. But we are losing the big collections. It's only really the Hall of Fame now in Las Vegas, which is going the other direction.
Right, and then there is the Pacific Pinball Museum, but they don't have the space to publicly exhibit that collection. No,
and they've been thinning out their collection as well by doing their warehouse sales. So they're getting rid of duplicates and ones that require too much restoration. So they're downsizing. Have been downsizing over the past couple of years. So let's hope we get some more huge collections out there for people to play and enjoy.
Right. So and then getting back to the other news. Let's stick to the museums for a little bit. I'm not sure if there's if you heard about this, but the Pinball Hall of Fame in Las Vegas had their grand opening the evening of July 1st. And the event was sort of overshadowed by the news that their contractor had made a mistake, and apparently the new building is 8 feet on the land of their neighbor.
Yes.
Which happens to be the Dream Hotel Corporation, or whatever it's called. Apparently a company with lots of money, lawyers, and you get the idea. It's going to be a very pleasant experience, I suppose, for Tim Arnold. I'm not sure whether there is any chance of them solving this without going to court. But obviously, this is a huge mistake, because obviously the Museum of Pinball Hall of Fame is blaming their contractor, and who is suing who, and what will be the outcome?
Well, it could well be that it's the surveyors, and they've made a mistake, and then it'll be down to whether they have insurance. in order to liability insurance in case they do make these kind of mistakes. And the biggest thing is, how are the neighbours whose land they are on going to react? Now, are they going to say, okay, we'll sell you the land, in that case, at whether it's a going rate or a premium price, or are they going to fight and say...
or lease it to them?
Yeah, try to lease it, which I'm sure is just what Tim doesn't want, to have 95% or 98% of the land owned, and that little 2% or 5% they have to lease from at a variable rate. It's kind of the whole point of owning the land and owning the building outright, was to avoid all that.
Right. So, So I haven't seen any news on it other than the opening weekend, but I'm sure we'll be talking about this in the future.
Yeah, I'm sure it will have to come to a resolution one way or the other before too long. But as we mentioned earlier, when we're talking about Deeproot and legal matters, none of this tends to get resolved very quickly.
Right. So,
I suppose we should go to our next interview, really, shouldn't we?
Well, yeah. So, surprise, surprise, people, we have another interview coming, and the occasion is we all remember probably the story of how Roger Sharpe saved pinball in the United States with a demonstration for the New York City Council, where he basically called his shot, plunging the ball and announcing in which top lane the ball would end up, which happened to be the case. And I'm not sure whether that was a spoiler or not, but
no, not at all.
No, well, so basically that story is the main ingredient, I suppose, for a movie about Roger Sharpe and his life in pinball.
Yes, it's to be called Pinball, the Man Who Saved the Game, and it's going to be made by MPI Original Films.
Right.
It's a dramatic comedy, apparently.
Ooh.
Yeah, based on the true story of Roger Sharpe, writer and pinball wizard, and that it doesn't just cover that fateful day in April 1976 in front of the 6 members of the committee from the New York Council, but it actually looks back at his whole life, how he got involved in pinball, writing the book, learning to play before that, the people he interviewed, and then how he became, how it was that he was called in front of the committee to help support the motion to overturn the ban on pinball within New York City, which, as Jonathan just said, he did by demonstrating that as a game of skill and calling which shot he was going to plunge the ball into, which resulted in the committee saying they'd seen enough and voting 6-0 to overturn that ban, a ban which was repealed when the law overturning it came into effect on the 1st of August in 1976, Roger Sharpe's birthday.
Right. Okay. So, let's give Roger a call and ask him about the movie and how he's involved and what have you.
Yeah. Okay.
Hello.
Hello,
Roger.
Hello, Roger.
Hi.
Well, first of all, congratulations on your birthday the other day. Hope you had a good day.
I did, as a matter of fact. Thank you. It was a day spent with the families. Josh and Amanda and Colin and Charlotte and Evan in the morning, and then late afternoon, early evening with Zachary, Crystal, and Benson. So
right.
It was all good. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Okay. Well, it's quite the family already.
It is. I guess everybody gets to keep me on my toes, so to speak, and not able to actually sleep in for what the day was, but well worth the sacrifice.
Right. Okay. If you don't mind me asking, you had a little health scare last year, if I'm not mistaken. How is your health?
It's good. Other than most recently, I sprained a tricep, so I've had to delay getting back out on the golf course for the next week or so. But otherwise, knock on wood, I'm in decent shape, all things being equal. So
Excellent.
Thank you for asking.
Glad to hear it.
Glad to hear that. Yes, absolutely. You recently did or last week, I should say, you did a very interesting podcast interview with Jeff Teolis and Ryan, who's over in Australia, where you discussed a lot of aspects of licensing. So we're not going to dive into that. But I suppose the big news, aside from your birthday during the weekend, last week was sort of announced that there will be a movie about the story of you saving pinball.
Yes, kind of strange that somebody would actually think that is worthwhile to be a movie.
Well, you obviously haven't been to the cinemas lately, because these days you need a lot less plot line to already have a movie. So in your case, so but what I understand is you're also you're involved in the project in some way yourself as well. What can you tell us?
Yeah, most definitely. Admittedly, it's not a documentary, which I think on first blush might have been a thought. It's not an animated movie, nor is it a big budget, spectacular special effects film. I'm not going off into space. No, I was contacted, the early part of last year, which is amazing, by Meredith Bragg and his brother Austin, who it's very talented filmmakers. And they had this notion that maybe doing a movie about me would be of interest to not only them creatively, because they're acting as not only the writers but also the directors of the film. And we began this process of communicating on a fairly regular basis, going over the script. I am the executive producer. I am putting, my take on everything in regard to what effectively is going to be probably about a 3-year period of time in my life, as we recount all the events leading up to and subsequently what wound up happening on April 3rd, if I'm not mistaken, or April 2nd, 1976, and see where things take us, and going through the casting process now. And the announcement, that came out last week was the leads. Joel Courtney gets to play a young me. Allison Reed gets to play a younger Ellen, and the casting continues. So yes.
Oh, so
right.
there's still parts to put us in.
Absolutely, there are. So get yourselves ready.
Can you tell us a little about the format of this movie? Is it like a full length feature? Is it as a short? Is it in episodes? How's it going to be? How's it going to be released?
It is actually a full length feature. I've gone through. We have the last draft, which is a 110-page script. I guess, and on last count, there are about 48 speaking parts.
Wow.
As the casting goes on, and this is an actual real movie. I guess is the best way to describe it.
Okay, so does that mean that the actors that are going to be playing you and Ellen will be in costumes dating back to 1976, and that if there's a scene where you'd be walking on the street, for example, that there's only cars in there that could have been around in 1976, or is that too far fetched? so to
No,
speak?
you are absolutely correct, and it's interesting because it is going to be historically accurate and authentic. So yes, there will be that taking place. The machines, because obviously there's going to be pinball machines and very specific ones, are going to be included into the movie. So there will be an outreach to see. Right now, we're looking at pre-production to start in about a month and a half. Actual filming is going to be the middle of October to the middle of November. It's going to be in and around Hudson Valley in New York State.
Ah, cool.
So there are directors of photography that are out there scouting locations. Yeah, I mean, whatever help the community is able to provide in terms of specifics for machines. I believe the IFPA next week, if I'm not mistaken, on the website, will be posting a release actually from Meredith and Austin asking for some help. So that we can have some authentic, machines and other things. So to answer your question a little bit more succinctly, Joel and Alice and Crystal will be definitely dressed in the appropriate attire. And whether or not Joel has the wherewithal, we haven't had a chance to really connect yet. He's currently working on a movie, but as soon as he gets a little bit of break in the action, plan on getting on a call and talking, and I can joke to find out if he's planning on starting his own mustache or if it's going to be something that they will actually plaster on his face for him. So we'll see how it goes.
Sounds great. But this is also billed in the announcement that you made last week or at the weekend that it's a dramatic comedy. So what's the comedic angle in all this?
I think it's some of the interchange that goes on. Our son, or Ellen's son, Seth, is very much a part of this process, going back to the beginning of our relationship together. And there are some moments, absolutely, where I guess there is a sense of comedy. I've never thought of my life as being necessarily comedic, but the creative and writing skills of Austin and Meredith have brought some new dimensionality to my life.
Right. So the question then would be, how much is it based on reality, and how much is has been added to it for cinematic effect?
I think, truthfully, it's a good question, Martin. Thank you. I think it really is pretty much accurate. We kind of went through it all, kind of drilled down. I won't say on a day-by-day basis, going back 40 years. But truthfully, very much in line chronologically in regard to, what wound up occurring. And, that I'll call those chapters out of my life. I will share with everybody that the first reaction that I had is really going to be one of the very first scenes in the movie, which is, and we're still waiting and hoping that our first choice will actually come to fruition to play, as we affectionately call it in the script, Mr. Sharpe. That is the older me.
Right.
But the opening scene is me being asked, about having a movie made. And it's like, really? Why would anybody be interested in a movie about me?
Right.
And that's kind of like the takeoff point and a lot of flashbacks, if you will. And so the story unfolds pretty much, dead on. There's a lot of things in there that I think many people are not aware of in terms of my life. A lot of things that.
Well, not everybody reads Pinball magazine, of course.
Well, absolutely. But I think that more on a personal level, Jonathan, there's a lot of things that come to light that, I was conflicted about, but I understood for the authenticity of the movie and what needed to be done to really kind of give a fuller picture of the lead character, that some of these things absolutely needed to be portrayed on screen.
Right. So does the sort of romantic side of it, the relationship between you and Ellen, is that in the same kind of timeline as actually happened, or does it necessarily need to be sort of conflated so it fits within the scope of the movie?
No, it actually is very much on target.
All right.
We were very precise in regard to the nature of that relationship, the importance of Ellen, and the overall process of whatever was happening in my life back then. Look, it takes me from my last days, if you will, or last few years in college on through. So, it takes me through my career in advertising, through my career at GQ magazine, and on through to, the book, and subsequently, the court case.
Right. So the whole story, the whole story about you going out to try to buy a pinball machine for yourself, which was basically how you got at GQ and so on. That's all going to be part of this film.
Absolutely, Jonathan. You are correct. And James Hamilton's character plays an integral part as well. I mean, there are going to be individuals in the movie that suddenly people will say, "Oh, wow, that's right. I forgot." Even to the point of some of the interview subjects for the pinball book.
Interesting.
So, Harry Williams, Sam Stern, Alvin Gottlieb, Sam Ginsberg, Herb Jones, that list is included and embraced within the context of the overall story.
Well, those people are going to appear in the movie, are they?
Yeah, as I said, we are absolutely going through a very deliberate process in regard to identifying specific talent for all of these characters and even more.
And this, of course, is not the first time that, well, at least the latter part of the story has been portrayed on the screen, albeit the small screen. You have appeared in as a subject of a drunk history episode, of course. You didn't have any involvement in that, did you?
I did not drunk history. Mysteries of the Museum on the History Channel, I did have. Unfortunately, we were not able to schedule things where I was actually going to be the person on screen in that, so they wound up getting an actor to portray me. But, Martin, you are correct. I mean, there have been any number of documentaries. We all know them.
Yeah.
Any number of different news accounts.
Yeah, and in print as well, of course, including, as Jonathan was saying, in Pinball Magazine.
Yes, the penultimate one of me in total embrace. So, yes.
Yeah. See what happens when you get featured in Pinball Magazine. Next thing you know, they make a movie about your life.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, that's probably the only reason. They wound up seeing it and said, "My God, if this person
probably not the only one. I'm trying to be modest here, but I do see a certain correlation."
Yeah, so
I am agreeing.
You are perhaps trying, but you're not succeeding too well. So is the movie sort of being funded in a traditional way by a studio, or is it self-funded, or is there a fundraiser campaign for it, or how?
Yeah, no, there's
how
no
is it coming about?
I don't know if folks are familiar with Moving Picture Institute, but the Moving Picture Institute is the production company behind all of this.
Okay.
Have set up a fairly significant budget. Again, it's not a special effects laden movie, but it's a significant budget to make this happen. And, whether or not they work with another distributor and how this plays out, in this day and age, it's kind of interesting. And we're looking at the release of this to be admittedly next year. I don't know the time frame exactly. Meredith and Austin have won awards. I highly recommend, if people have not had a chance, and I think you can access it. It's a very, very short film that they did called A Piece of Cake. And the star, God, I forget his name. My apologies on that. It's Summers, and I can't remember his first name, but he was one of the stars on the television series Mad Men. He plays the star in this short little film, but it's won accolades. It's been at film festivals and what have you. And if you do any kind of check on Meredith and Austin, and would even suggest at some point in time you may have a desire to actually want to talk to them, but they have been very celebrated. These are not just a couple of guys off the street. I was overwhelmed and impressed by all of what they've achieved to date, and the fact that they would deem my story to be something that they'd want to actually bring to fruition. But I think that right now, I'll go back to it. Whether it becomes something that is in theaters based on what's happening with theaters, whether it becomes a mix and a match of theatrical release and Netflix or one of the other streaming services. Don't know. I mean, that's still somewhat yet to be determined. But I think that given the talent that has currently been cast, as well as what's going to be coming up, I think all of that will play out. So, no, this is not a Kickstarter kind of thing where it's a whim and a hope and a prayer. This is a legitimate undertaking, if you will. It's
definitely happening. Yeah, right.
Yeah, and look, I don't think that they would turn down any company, studio, or whatever else who would want to step in to say, hi, we'd like to, join in this. MPI has been incredibly successful doing any number of film projects. If you go to their website, I truly was overwhelmed by what they've accomplished and the awards and accolades that they have garnered. So I'm in incredibly good company and very humbled by it all.
Okay, so given the accolades that you just mentioned for the filmmakers, is this a film that's also going to be in the running for film festival awards and that kind of stuff, prizes, or is that not something that you can comment on, or don't know?
No, I think that, I can't comment specifically. I don't want to put words into either Austin or Meredith's mouth. Or that of MPI, but I would believe that it's probably going to be an undertaking that will find its way into that pathway of various film festivals and what have you. As we go forward, more information on that to come, since we're still very much in the pseudo preliminary stages. The script is basically done now. We've gone through a number of rewrites over these past many months. Again, it's now just a question of locking in talent, and there'll be more announcements as they come.
Right.
Well, from a very personal point of view, I would also ask whether it would be possible to get this movie released on some kind of physical media, be it DVD, Blu-ray. Because you know how people like to collect pinball memorabilia, and of course this is going to be a hot collectible item for anybody who's a completist, who's got to have all the pinball movies, the books, and other publications. So I'm sure people would want to buy this as a physical product as well as watch it in cinema or stream.
I'm assuming that they'll probably do something like that. I mean, most movies today are available in those various mediums. So
great, let's hope so.
Okay, so that brings me to the following question. In the past, you've mentioned that your pinball book, which you did together with James Hamilton, originally it had like 300 something pages, and a lot of that was actually cut, and you've always wanted to do like the book in the form that you originally intended it. wouldn't it be a great opportunity to do that together with the tying in with the movie? Or
Jonathan, I hadn't thought of that, but you're probably on point to ask that question and bring it up as a possibility. I don't know. We'll see. You know, obviously with my son Josh's urging, the interviews have now been placed in a medium other than in small little cassettes that he was fearful would have dried out and not been able to be reclaimed. And I know with Nate Shivers, excuse me, we've done a couple of those to have people actually hear the voice of Harry Williams or the voice of, you know, Sam Stern and Alvin Gottlieb and others, more to come. So I think the idea of maybe bringing to life the original book and the pictures could well be an option. Don't know. I have not thought about it until you just planted that small little seed.
Okay. Well,
can we sort of, while we're going back in time a little bit, can we do a similar thing? Go back to that time in April of 1976 when you were at the New York City Council meeting, the committee meeting there. Could you possibly have imagined then that the events of that day would, all this time later, still be talked about and have such significance in pinball's history that it turned into a movie?
Not in my wildest imagination, Martin. And it's interesting. I, for one, and we just kind of mentioned about people in the hobby who are ardent collectors of anything and everything pinball. I have court documents from other cases, you know, going back into the 30s and what have you. The one I do not have is the one from New York. I have never stopped being overwhelmed by the fact that it has endured and remained. I think on the same level, and this may sound somewhat strange in context, I never thought that the pinball book would remain what it has been. I did that truly as a labor of love and wanting to give a voice and a face in some cases to the people responsible for creating something that I fell in love with, pinball. And I think the court case, and I've been asked the question over time and I've talked about it, and you guys know this. I think the fact that it was New York City was the fact that it stood out more so than, and I wasn't involved in 72 in Los Angeles. I wasn't directly involved in Chicago the latter part of 76, but I did testify in other cases that proved to turn bands around. But I think it was New York, and I think it was that seminal moment of what happened, and James being there, at least one of the people to capture the moment on film. I have said, and I truly believe this in my heart, that I never assumed that my legacy would have been pinball, and or that it would have inspired in some ways and motivated both of my sons to become so deeply entrenched in the industry. Obviously, Joshua with Raw Thrills being a video game company, but Zachary heading up marketing at Stern. I am immensely proud of both of them. And I guess that's the gift that keeps on giving. So yeah, I am, for one of the few times I am actually, in a way, speechless, although I am not speaking, if that makes sense at all.
Right. So you mentioned you'll be in the opening scene of the movie as yourself, I suppose, as Mr. Sharpe.
Oh, no, I'm not.
Oh,
that is going to be an actor who is going to be portraying me.
Ah, okay. So that brings me to the question, will you be doing a cameo in the movie?
The plan right now, and I will share with you, I have been hibernating, I guess is the best way to describe it. I have not traveled. I did not go to the recent coin-operated amusement game show. For Pinball Expo that's coming up, literally in my own backyard, I am on the fence regarding protocols. I know that it's going to be indoors. I don't know if I'm ready to do that yet, but we still have some time, and we'll see if that's going to be possible. I'm not planning on doing any travel for the balance of this year. There's a couple of major trade shows and events that I have gone to for decades, literally. My plan was maybe to start again sometime in January and begin my cycle of travel, but now it looks like sometime in October I'm going to bite the bullet and head to Hudson Valley in New York. And yes, I am planning on, I think somebody called it either a Stanley moment or an Alfred Hitchcock moment, somewhere on screen where, yes, I will be there.
I was going to say, so
only knows what.
Right. So Roger Sharpe will be the Stanley of pinball.
There you go. Yes. Kind of walking across the screen, or Alfred Hitchcock used to do his moments as well. So we're talking about that. We're also talking about, and I'll share with you, the possibility of other folks maybe making cameos as well. So there could be an opportunity, Martin and Jonathan, for both of you, depending on your travel, to actually be in the movie in some spot somewhere in one of the scenes.
If I would be any of the managers or owners of pinball companies currently around, I would definitely try to get in there in some way or capacity. Maybe playing a part as somebody on the city council, listening to or watching you play or something like that. But that's me. That's what I would do. I'm not saying that anybody else would do that, but I see possibilities.
I think I know who I'd like to be.
I mean, we're going to see. We're going to see what we can do. Obviously, this is a professional undertaking, but if there are ways to maybe do things that are more or less visual Easter eggs for us in the pinball community. I have discussed that with Meredith and Austin, and they're kind of up for it, all things being considered and within reasonable limitations. But they like the idea of having some surprises.
Well, there has to be a cow in there somewhere.
Yes, I think if I was in there, I'd probably be one of the press scrum who was taking the photograph of you during the hearing while you were playing the machine.
There you go.
That would be a great one to be at.
Okay. Well, I'm sure that Meredith and Austin will listen to this when it becomes live, and we'll see what notes they take and what kind of roles they'll mete out for both of you.
Excellent. Well, fingers crossed that by October we'll be allowed to come to America, and who knows, it may just fit in with our schedule of travel as well.
Well, that, and hopefully by coming here, you won't have to quarantine for 14 days.
Yes, that's right. That's the big one. Yeah. Well, this is all very exciting, and you're looking at tentatively a release in the middle of next year for this.
I would think. I that we have not really gone through yet. I'll follow the guidelines of whatever MPI has in terms of scheduling and what's best for them. But I have to believe that post-production will probably be at least 6 to 8 to 9 months. So kind of work it out from there. As I said, it's not as if we're doing lots of special effects that I know of. Yes. I don't want to misspeak.
Well, obviously, it's more than just a small filter to get that 70s vibe.
Well, that, and truthfully, look, one of the keys, and I've listed out for MPI and for the brags, the games that I think are most relevant in my life that I need to have be in place for various scenes, not the least of which obviously is going to be El Dorado and
Bank Shot, yeah,
for the court scene. But, even the inspiration for Sharpshooter being Free Fall / Sky Jump and Satin Doll, the pinball community kind of knows those games that, were very instrumental for me, whether it's Hurdy-Gurdy and Subway and Cowpoke and Majorettes from that era. So we're going to have to do, some deep diving and, God willing, be able to find, the appropriate machines. I think the other part, in all honesty, is, some of what has been recounted, the machines that were closed down in New York City that started all of this process going in the first place.
Right.
Going to need some machines not to be destroyed necessarily. This is not going to be a feeding frenzy, as was the case in the movie Tommy.
Yeah.
Where I still remember Alvin Gottlieb and I talking, and Alvin sharing with me how his heart was breaking along with Judd when they saw the movie and saw that those were real machines that Ken Russell had destroyed as part of the movie, throwing them over when they were showing the destruction of games back in the early 40s as part of the movie. It wasn't as if those were little cardboard boxes that were colored. Those were real games, and if you go back, for those who have even the curiosity to do so, you can see that, God, those are the inner workings. Look at all those relay banks and things. Those are real back glasses and real play fields that they just destroyed utterly.
Yeah, I know.
So,
heartbreaking.
Want to be as careful as possible in terms of any damage that either needs to be done, and we'll do things appropriately, and or games that need to really be in somewhat pristine condition, because it could be a 40-year-old game that's going to need to look like it's 4 days old.
Right. Yeah, sounds like somebody should get the list of games that are coming up for auction at the Museum of Pinball and see if there are any titles there that would be suitable, and maybe either buy them or contact the owners who do buy them and see if they'd be willing to lend them for use in the movie.
No, it's a great idea, and it really is unfortunate, I guess, with John's collection as to, whatever is going to happen to it. That was a remarkable venue, to say the least.
Well, if I recall correctly, it only had games from 1965 and up. So that would actually, not sure about the hurdy-gurdy, but I think you might even find that in there. And
I think that there were some. I remember when I went out for the first year, I think that he was staging it, and wound up, as I affectionately think of it, seeing some of my old friends that I hadn't seen or played in a long time. And Sid was around working feverishly to fix games, and along with the other guys. And it was wonderful. It was kind of a throwback to another era. So yes, that is something that we're going to be looking at. And I am sure that we will probably get a point, and maybe it is going to be in this release that's coming up on the IFPA website from Meredith and Austin, that will list out some of the games that I have shared with them as to what I believe are going to be really important to have.
Right. So getting back to the movie, is it going to stop at the story of you testifying at City Council, or is also the development of Sharpshooter and other games that you were involved in, is that also going to be featured in the movie at the end, possibly?
I think that there'll be an epilogue of sorts, so that I just don't drift off in the distance at the courtroom.
Right. Okay. Well, all I can say is congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a very exciting project, and we look forward to following how it goes.
Well, you and me both. There was a sense of incredulousness to it in the beginning, and it was like, yeah, right. And then suddenly it was a little bit more real, and a little bit more real, and a little bit more real, and lo and behold, here we are on the precipice. So it's exciting, and I'm hoping that that folks, specifically in the pinball community, will like it. The outside world, whatever level of curiosity or interest they may have about somebody like me, that's anybody's guess. But we'll see what happens. And maybe, Martin, going back to your question before as to did I ever envision things being what they are with the court case? No. So I cannot even fathom whatever the reaction may be going forward about this, in quotes, feature film.
Well, it's good that the film is being made by non-pinball people, so it has a much more of a mainstream slant to it, rather than being just one for the fans. This is much more has a much broader appeal, I think, or that's the way it will be made, I'm sure.
No, I think so, and I think that, again, the core of it, though, is going to be the celebration of not only a person's life, but more importantly, how pinball helps define that life.
And there you have it.
Thank you very much indeed, Roger. That's great.
Yeah. So well, good news for Roger, and we're very happy. And obviously, this is was probably going to be a 2023 movie, I suppose, with all the editing and so on. But I look forward to seeing it.
Well, no, he said it's going to be in summer of next year. He said.
Well, that's when they stop filming, or when the filming has to be done, but then they still have to do the editing, and it could be easily like 8 months or so. I don't know.
So, anyway, we will keep you updated on that, as we said. We'll check back with Roger regularly to see how the progress is going.
Right. Okay. Now, since we're doing interviews, there is another event that is definitely worth mentioning. And that's Wayne Neyens' 103rd birthday.
Yes, congratulations, Wayne.
Yes, as you may know, Wayne Neyens is featured, his entire career in pinball is featured in Pinball Magazine number 5. Wayne used to be the game designer at Gottlieb and later chief engineer, and he's been involved in 180 games or so. And, he's still alive. Yeah. 103 years old, and he's still sharp as a knife. Now, I obviously interviewed and visited Wayne a couple of times for Pinball Magazine number 5, but I kept in contact with Wayne, and I gave him a call the evening before his 103rd birthday. Without Wayne knowing it, I recorded that call, and I edited out some elements which I would like to join or to share with you and everybody else. So let's take a listen to my conversation with Wayne Neyens.
Okay.
I'd call you a day ahead to congratulate you on your 103rd birthday.
Isn't that amazing?
It is amazing. Yes.
You know Will White?
Yeah, I know Will White.
Well, he's sitting right across the table from me here.
Okay. That's very nice.
Hello, Will. Hi there. Well, we're just sitting down to eat dinner.
Okay, so am I interrupting?
Well, you never interrupt. You're one of those kind of guys that are welcome to talk at any time, any place.
Okay. Well, I don't want your dinner to get cold.
Well, we're just starting dinner, so. But I'm sure glad you called up.
Well, 103, Wayne. You're the oldest living pinball designer ever.
True. That's true.
Yeah. So, and I'm very happy to still have you around.
I'm sure glad you did call and you remembered, and that's great. I really appreciate. I got a lot of cards from people and telephone calls.
Well, I figured it would be busy tomorrow, so I call a day ahead.
I'm glad you did, but I can't imagine 103.
Well, if anybody can, you should be.
I can't imagine it. What time is it over there? It must be morning, huh?
It's 2:30 at night.
2:30. Oh my goodness. Why aren't you in bed?
Well, I figured I'd give you a call. Over here, it's already your birthday, Wayne. So I wanted to be the first.
Wonderful. That's so nice. I really appreciate it, Jonathan.
How's your health these days?
Oh, I don't know. It's deteriorating, but I don't know. I feel I have another year.
At least.
I have a friend here in town who said on my 100th birthday he got up and made a little speech, and he said when he's going to make 104 years old.
Right.
And I laughed at him. Of course now every time I see him, he said, "Well, you're getting there." So I don't know. Maybe I'll make 104. So.
Well, we're expecting you to make 104, and hopefully even 105 and beyond.
No. I tell you, Will and I are sitting there eating and talking and having fun. We're laughing about different guys and different features of games and what we like and what Parker liked and what Parker did with his glasses and so on. And we're having a ball.
Excellent. Are your daughters coming over for your birthday?
One of them is already here, and the other one is not going to come because she just had her hip operated on and she can't drive. So
okay.
She's not going to make it. My son can't make it. He's not well either. When your kids are in their 70s, it's terrible. They have problems of their own.
I suppose that's true.
It's hard to understand that your daughter has hip operations. Why? How did that happen? And your son got a bad back. He can't sit very long. It's amazing how they get old and have troubles, and I keep going.
Well, you're an inspiration to everybody.
I don't know about that, but I try.
I have one question for you, Jonathan.
Sure, Will. Go ahead.
Are you and Martin coming over in 2021 to the U.S.?
We are hoping that we can make it to Pinball Expo in October.
Oh, great. Okay.
But so far, there's a travel ban. We can't, even if we want to, we can't travel to the U.S. from Europe. That's basically been prohibited. And the COVID virus is actually spreading again here in Europe. So I don't think it will be very likely. We're trying to, but I sort of hope for March 2022.
Good. Well, whenever you make it, if you're here in the U.S., I'll follow your travels based on your internet information and try to come see you guys.
Oh, well, much appreciated, Will.
The stuff you put out every month is very fun to read, so I appreciate that.
I appreciate you letting me know.
Alrighty, well, too bad you're not here to hear these stories that Wayne and I are laughing. We're having
I
a good
know
time.
Wayne's stories are great, so you must be having a ball.
It's hard for me to think up stories I haven't told them already. So, but I got to save a few for another year. Right?
Well, Will, bring him a pinball machine
year
because
I got to have another story for him.
Right. So, is anybody going to bring you a pinball machine just to fix uppers to keep you busy?
Well, I'd love to work on another game, I guess, but I don't know. My eyesight isn't too good anymore, but my mind is still good, and that's what I'm most happy about. That my mind is still good. I can calculate things and do things, but my memory is what is the worst part.
You know what? How come that happens?
No.
Because you stopped playing pinball.
Well, you're not going to believe this, but I think of pinballs and dream of them at night today, even today.
If you wake up in the middle of the night with an idea for a pinball game, make sure you have pen and paper ready to draw it down.
Okay, I'll do that.
So
I'll do that, Jonathan.
okay. I hear Stern Pinball has a job opening for a pinball designer. You want me to put a good a word in for you?
Yeah, do that. Well, I'm afraid it's an era that's gone past. You know, it was an era at span of about 20 years that pinballs were the best, and then they went off right away. There's no pinball to amount to anything today. They make a few, you know, here and there, but they're not like we were making, where hundreds of thousands of the number.
Well, some sell well, but they're nothing compared to. It's a completely different world right now. The games of today are so different than the games that you used to design.
Yeah, it's a different game, entirely different. You know.
But you still have two bats to beat the ball around, so that stayed the same.
Yeah, I'm about ready to hang it up, I think.
You just promised to make it 104. So
well, I'm going to give it a shot for 104.
That's what you said last year when I was here for your 102nd.
Yeah, that's what what's the name down here said, 104, and I can't be. But here I'm at 103 already. So
yeah, but so that must be horrible, because the closer you get, you never know when is it going to end.
You never know. What keeps me here? I don't understand.
Well,
the water.
I think it's just I'm only here just to irritate my friend here.
Something tells me that you're probably you stopped designing pinball machines, but maybe you're not done yet, and they keep you here as long as until you finish the job.
I'd sure like to design another game, I tell you, but that's out of the question.
No. All you have to do is design it on paper, and then we'll find people to turn it into a reality.
Well, I'd sure like to do it. I think of it every night, you know.
Okay.
I dream pinball.
Write down your ideas. I'm so curious to see what you're coming up with.
Well, Jonathan, I'm what you call over the hill.
Well,
way over the hill.
I'm not sure how to put this, but you can always get back on the hill.
What do you think?
You can get back on the hill there. Jonathan, you come over here to Mountain Home and you start a pinball company, and I'll be sure and get Wayne to design a game. I'll sit him down with a slide rule and some tools, but first you got to put the pinball machine here in Mountain Home. Okay?
I was hoping you brought one.
No, he didn't bring any games with him.
Too bad. I still feel you never should have parted with that Spirit of '76.
That was a game, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, and you were quite good at it.
Yeah, I was pretty good at that game. You heard about the time I switched the flippers around, didn't you?
Yes.
Ever hear that?
Yeah. I remember that story. Michael Shalhoub.
Yeah, Michael, he was hurt. He was really hurt because he is a top player.
Yeah.
And a nice guy too.
It's a good prank, Wayne. You're a good pranker.
Yeah. But anyway, we have fun.
Right. So.
What a fun industry. What a fun job to have. And all my life I had fun. Maybe that's why I lived so long.
Well,
I had fun.
Maybe that's the secret to getting old. Just make sure you have plenty of fun.
You know, it may have a lot to do with it. It might have a lot to do with it.
Then I foresee that I might be getting very old as well.
There you go.
Now all I need to do is start designing pinball machines.
Jonathan, how old are you?
I turned 50 this year.
Oh, you're just a kid.
Yeah, just a kid.
Oh my goodness. To be 50 years old again. Enjoy.
Well, Wayne, you still have the spirit of a 50-year-old.
Yeah, I think I do. I try to keep my spirits up, and I look at the bright side of everything. I don't go around moping or anything. I think I keep a good outlook, don't I?
You have a good sense of humor. That's what counts.
Yeah, I can crack a joke once in a while. You remember some of the crazy things that happened, you know.
Please give my regards to Will and your daughter. And it's been a pleasure talking to you again, Wayne.
Okay, it's my pleasure. My pleasure, and I appreciate the call, and thank you very much.
Okay. So
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So what did I tell you? He's still very witty and energetic, and well, like he said himself, he has the mind of a 50-year-old, but unfortunately his body is a little bit older. But he's still very in good spirits. He's very upbeat, and he's having a good time, enjoying himself. Although the physical discomfort of being 103 is not always that enjoyable, of course. But
well, based on what you said there, I think maybe you should qualify what you said earlier, that the Pinball Magazine number 5 include Wayne Neyens' entire career in pinball up until now.
Well,
and you never know.
I keep pushing Wayne to come up with new designs. I mean, he may not be able to complete the design, but if he comes up with a good idea, we can still find the people to make it happen.
Yeah, well, as you said, we know there's an opening now for a game designer. So,
right. Well, if a big name leaves, it's best to fill it up to replace it with another big name.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay, so congratulations again to Wayne, and we look forward to celebrating his 104th birthday this time next year.
Right.
Now, we mentioned that August the 1st was the date on which New York passed into law the legalization of pinball, and it was also Roger Sharpe's birthday. Well, it was also August the 1st this year was the date at which the IFPA reinstated accreditation of pinball tournaments around the world, which means that you can start earning your WPPR or Whopper points again. And there's a big rush of tournaments on that date, and very soon afterwards for people to start earning those points again, having been denied them over the past year or more. So
I still feel that they should do some sort of deal with Burger King, that if you compete, that you get a discount on your next Whopper meal.
Yeah, well, it would certainly make sense. Should at least sponsor something.
Could be a great publicity stunt for pinball as well.
Yeah, well, the more publicity, the better, as we've been talking about. So anyway, from now on, if you're running a tournament, you will be able to award Whopper points to those.
Well, there's I think 2 items left. 1 item left on the list of things. Yes.
Yeah.
So a final item, last but not least. Brian Allen, who has been doing some artwork for pinball, as you may remember, doing some mashups and so on, he announced a new Williams mashup art.
Yes, featuring numerous characters from Valley Williams games. It's all licensed through Planetary Pinball, and basically crams in a huge number of different characters from various games into a single art piece, so translite-sized piece. Oh, it sounds like shaped, I suppose. It could be made at multiple sizes. But you could have fun going through there and trying to name all the different characters from and the games in which they appear.
Right. Yeah.
So
still not sure why he officially licensed them, because if he's doing his own interpretation, I don't think that's necessary. But then again, if he's working with PPS and that gets him make sure that he's not into trouble, then good for him, I suppose.
I think that's the reason. Yeah, I mean, it's not. It may not be absolute legal requirement, but avoids any complications, and makes it easier for everybody all round.
Okay, so how many did you recognize?
I didn't actually have a chance to go through them all, but I don't think there were any in there I didn't recognise.
Right. Okay. So
from a first glance, put it that way.
Yeah. Okay. So from the top of my head, I remember Dr. Dude being on there, and the Barracuda head being the centerpiece.
Yeah, I haven't got it in front of me, so I can't remember it. But it was certainly a very interesting piece, and I say Brian always produces some very very clever and stylised pieces, and this is no exception.
Right.
So you mentioned that was the last piece of news, but there was one more item, of course.
What did I miss?
We were talking earlier about Deeproot and the Razor game there, which of course is John Poppaduke development.
Right. Yeah, I know where you're going.
Yeah. Now, it wasn't originally slated when it was with Zidware that would be the first game to be produced. The first game to be manufactured was Magic Girl.
Yes.
And of course it was actually manufactured eventually in one form or another. It was built at the American Pinball factory as was the American Pinball factory then. Of course they moved since then.
Right.
And I forget exactly how many. It was like 26 or something of those machines.
I think originally John sold 25 games. And in the end, I think they built 19 or so.
Okay,
so
right.
it's a very limited game, of course. Yes, and I know where you're heading at. Last month, I mentioned that Gerard of the Dutch Pinball Museum posted a photo of himself standing next to 3 Magic Girl games at a location which turned out to be in the Netherlands. And in the meantime, I've been in contact with the owners of these games, who claim that they got the game working. And last week I had the good fortune to actually visit them, see the game in person, play it, and I must say it's a very interesting game. And they told me the story of all the technical solutions they came up with to get the game working, which is quite impressive. And well, the main reason to tell you this, because a lot of people have been asking, or don't even believe that this is happening, or that they did what they claimed that they did. So they asked for video footage, and the good news is I will be going back to actually host a video in which we will be showing all the technical developments that they went through to get the game working, where you can start various multi-balls and have balls locked and what have you. I was really impressed with what they did and some of the solutions that they came up with. The idea is that we'll be shooting that video this month, but it still needs to be edited, and I think we can expect it to be made public by the end of September. That's a very rough deadline, I would say, but that's sort of what I got the feeling is the goal. The goal is to publish such video at the end of September. But it's going to be edited and narrated and what have you. So it should be a good quality video highlighting. Well, it's going to be the sort of like the story of what the original buyers eventually got and what it is now. So
yeah, it's probably worth going back and recapping and saying that the game as manufactured at American Pinball by John and the team was actually missing huge amounts of mechanisms, and also some of the bits in it just simply didn't work.
Right.
It was it looked beautiful and had great lighting, but it was fundamentally flawed, and it wasn't in actual fact a playable game. You could flip the ball around and make a couple of shots, but it really wasn't working at all. And
yeah, there was no possibility to lock balls, for example, so you could never start a multi-ball. And well, there were other aspects. I mean, there's a mini playfield that has magnets on there, but well, if you can't get the ball up the mini playfield,
that's right. There's no means of actually getting up there.
Right.
To it.
So, and they fixed that, and it's quite an enjoyable game. What it is so far, and they're still working on some tweaks, things that they need to finish.
And this is a homebrew project. It's not something that's going to be commercially available for.
No, I don't think so.
The other few owners of those games to purchase as a kit, or indeed to have their machine sent to these guys and have the mods applied?
Well, what I've seen, it's not like, here's a couple of parts, and if you screw these here and there, and then you're all set. No, it's absolutely not like that.
No.
They really did some very impressive modifications to the game. One I can, for example, I think it's interesting to mention. If you are familiar with the layout of Magic Girl, it has in the center of the playfield, there is a sort of a mini playfield with 2 magnets, similar to the mini playfield of Twilight Zone. But because the game has an LCD as a back panel, it's blocking part of the LCD screen. And especially there's a diverter with a coil on top of that ramp that's really blocking your view. But they came up with a modification to put that coil on the underside of the ramp. So it's actually, first of all, it's working, and second, it's no longer blocking your view. And they also raised the LCD, I think, by 1/2 inch or something like that. So it's all sorts of mechanical changes, I suppose, to the game. So it's not something that you can easily do with a kit, so to speak, like if you go ahead and fix your game. And I think it's also, if a kit would be an option, I mean, there's 19 of these games available or in existence around the world. That's hardly commercial viable to make such a kit, I suppose, if that was even an option. So.
No, that's what I was asking, whether people would be able to send their games, if they had them, to the team and get all these changes applied.
What if such a game is in Australia?
Yeah, well, yeah. It's a rare enough game. It's going to have a lot of value, but none of this has been achieved in conjunction with John Popperduke. Is that right?
As far as I know, not yet, or no. So they basically are trying to stay as close and authentic to what John had in mind with the game, but obviously they are facing technical challenges to get certain things to work, and so they try to stay as close as John intended it, for as far as they can see how John intended it.
Okay,
so,
great. We look forward to seeing more of that and the video when that eventually comes out.
Right, so that will be something that I'm working on, and I don't want to leave you here hanging with a teaser, but it will be an interesting project. So
yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and I suppose that rounds it up for the month of July and the first week of August.
I think it does. Yes, I think we've covered quite a lot in this one, and it's as you can see, it's been a busy time, and with some exciting news and some interesting staff moves as well.
Right.
As well as some new games coming out. So that is it for July 2021. We will be back at the end of this month to look.
We will be back sooner with Steve Ritchie.
You're right. I was forgetting myself. I'm forgetting Steve. Yep. If all goes to plan, we will. And there's no guarantee of anything at the moment. But if it does go to plan, then we will be back with a special bonus recording of PINcast with Steve Ritchie, telling us all about his new role at Jersey Jack Pinball. And after that, we will be back at the end of August, end of August, start of September, to look back at the rest of August and everything that happened in the pinball world there. So until then, from myself, Martin Ayub, and
from me, Jonathan Joosten,
we wish you a very happy August, and we'll see you at the end of it,
or prior to that.
For the interview. Okay.
Yes, exactly. So until then, stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye.